first?
I don't know.
You're like, where do I put my hands? Lillian,
Yes.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Why don't you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Oh gosh, I think that's a loaded question. My name is Lillian Wong. I guess my day job is a chemical engineer at a food processing and packaging design company.
Okay, I didn't know that, so I'll definitely ask you about
Oh
that.
gosh. I know I never know how to explain this to people, and it's always weird talking to people about what I do because all my friends have very different jobs, and so everyone's like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh gosh, it's interesting for sure." And
Especially if you're a musician or an artist, you don't. I personally have met a lot of people in that world, but it's not common to meet someone in that world, that type of world, someone who has a background in science and or an attorney or a doctor. You don't meet so many that are still playing in bands and doing that. Sometimes you do, but it's not.
It's
for
very
obvious
rare.
reasons. It's not too common.
And I feel like that's like the last thing that I usually tell people about because I'm like, do they care? Probably not. And I feel like it's like the least interesting part about myself, but I don't know. People are always asking like, what do you do? And I'm like, I think that was just like the given answer of, what do you do for a living? I'm like, well, this is how I support all of my hobbies. This is how I fund my life. So
it's better than having, not there's anything wrong with it because we've all had to do it or we know people who do it in the music industry, but like, you know, working at a bar or delivering pizza, working at a coffee shop. Love those jobs. We've all been there, but a lot of people have to keep doing that to sustain that career because of the time, the schedule.
Yes.
I'm assuming your job might be an 8 to 4, 9 to 5.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when you're at a concert or a show or a green room till 2 a.m., it starts to become really difficult to do your kind of job.
Yes.
So what they do is they go to jobs that kind of work around that. They're in the same schedule of time, same types of people around, which makes sense, except you can't do those jobs forever.
No,
and they don't have as much promise, they don't have as much stability.
Stability, I know.
It's not insurance, it's not 401k.
I really love stability right now. I think I did think about like leaving the corporate world for a while, especially because I was like, oh, I want to do music, but then I'm like, I'm so used to my lifestyle. Like I graduated college and was like immediately like got a corporate job, and then like that's all I knew at the point. So I was like, oh, and then when I started the music thing, and then I'm like, oh, but I love playing music, but I don't know if like I could still live the way that I live right now. Like it's a big trade, and nothing's a guarantee ever. So
and what do you play? What instrument?
So I play bass. I started playing bass in 2020.
Oh, recently?
Yes.
How old are you now?
I'm turning 30 this Saturday.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank
I
you.
turn 35 next Saturday.
Ooh, Sagittarius.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know anything about that, but I do know I'm a Sagittarius.
We're fire signs.
My ongoing joke of saying I'm a Stradivarius doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Even you're like,
Nope.
I used to say that when I was a kid because I didn't hear about astrology and astronomy and things of that nature. I didn't know anything about that. So when people would say like, what sign are you? You're roughly close to my age to where 20 years ago that's not what people were talking about.
No,
I'm sure in school now it is, but it was not.
It definitely was not.
So when people would bring it up, I didn't know what they were talking about. And eventually I kept hearing Sagittarius a lot. And I was like, I'm just going to tell people I'm a Stradivarius to confuse them. And what I noticed, it would work on people who were kind of like surface level astrology. They'd hear them like, oh, okay. And they wouldn't correct me or even laugh or say like, you mean Sagittarius? They wouldn't say anything. Like, oh my God, some people don't, they're falling for it. They don't even realize they don't even know what's going on.
True. Some people really just don't know, which is fair. Whatever. You don't have to know anything about anything ever.
No, but it's pretty cool and rare that at 26, 25, you decided to pick up an instrument, to pick up bass.
So 2020, coronavirus happens. I get laid off from my job. At that point in time, I had a very travel-dependent job in the oil and gas industry.
Okay.
So, at that point in time, I was 100% travel-based, and we weren't allowed to travel anywhere due to all the travel restrictions throughout the world, and I was going internationally. And so I was just chilling in a hotel room, and my company was paying for it, and we're losing so much money. And we're not billable, so, overhead has to pay for it. So got laid off. I think they got rid of like 75% of my team, I want to say. And then I moved back home with my parents.
And they're from Chicago?
They're in Skokie.
In Skokie,
yeah.
okay.
And I had bought this bass maybe in like 2018 because I was just like, I kind of want to buy a bass, but did not have time to like pick it up. And then I started traveling, never got around to playing bass. And then so 2020, I want to say like August or September, sometime around then, I started just watching a bunch of like YouTube videos and playing those like play along cover songs where they have the tab cover solutions. I'm pretty sure. Love
You
that.
can keep talking, so I'm going to flip this so I can make sure that it's always on while we're filming. But I'm listening to you.
No worries. And then so I think the first song I learned was Holy Diver by Dio. And I think at that point in time, I was like, I'm going to learn how to play with a guitar, with a pick and my fingers. So I think that song I did both, and it was so hard. And then I think I gave up on the pick idea immediately. I was like, no more pick. We're just going to try to finger style it. And then I started learning more and more songs, got like my own like bass playlist of songs going on Spotify just to be like, okay, let's learn how to play a bunch of songs. And I definitely picked songs that probably were too hard for me at the time, but
You didn't realize that.
I realized it,
okay.
but I was like, we're going to try to do it anyways.
But it's good. It's how you get better faster when
Yeah.
you are trying to play more complicated music.
Yes. And I will say that I do have like a violin background, so that helped tremendously, like a stringed instrument background.
Just the ear training alone and timing and positioning, learning like the importance of finger positioning. If you teach yourself an instrument, especially popular ones like bass and guitar that have frets that are all over pop culture, and you could just learn through looking and listening. Even the timbre of it's easier to pick up on, like learning a song on guitar than something else because it's the same timbre as the guitar in the song.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, if you don't have a background in it, you'll learn chords in a funny way. You'll play power chords backward. You'll just play things weird because you develop your own finger positioning. Not that it's wrong. It might not be as efficient or as stable for longevity,
Yeah.
Finger strength, if you're playing stuff the wrong way, it could be a lot harder on you than when it doesn't have to be.
Oh,
but having that
yeah.
violin knowledge, did you start playing at like
5 or 6.
5 Sudoku method or?
No, actually, so did not do the Suzuki method. I think my parents
Suzuki, I said Sudoku. Suzuki.
didn't even notice.
Yeah, Suzuki
I was like,
method.
oh,
Misspoke.
no worries.
Yeah. I know about them, I just misspoke it.
So I think my parents were really adamant on finding me teachers that weren't doing the Suzuki method. We did still use like the Suzuki books, like you would have all of your technique books like scales, arpeggios, blah, 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 all the finger strength training skills. But then you would have your, piece that you would play, that you would be working towards. And so we would still use the Suzuki like pieces to like be like, oh, like you're going to be playing these pieces, but we're not going to use the method that they're trying to like convey.
Okay.
So I played violin probably from when I was like 5 or 6 to I quit when I was 16. And I would say like as a kid, I think I picked up on things really quickly, but once things got hard, I was like, this is it. So
That's why you wanted to go into chemical engineering. It was very easy.
That was also just like a whim.
That's like the hardest engineering gig.
Really?
One of them. It's got to be.
I mean, I feel like
Maybe you're just that smart.
no.
How do you, I just picked that random
That's kind of how it happened. My junior year of high school, I took AP Chem, and then there were a bunch of seniors in that class. I was taking both physics and AP Chem because I was like, need to get into college, and so I want to do extra things.
Yeah. Raise your chances.
Yeah. And then so I took AP Chem, and all the like seniors that I was like friends with, a bunch of them actually majored into chemical engineering. And then so like I kept in touch with them, and they're like, oh, Lillian, just pick chemical engineering, just do it. And then I was like, I knew I had to go into something in STEM because I was not good at history, not very good at English and like reading comprehension and like deep thinking, critical skills with like literature. I don't think I was very good at that.
More analytical, more might have a fact person.
Yeah, definitely like
Data.
Like facts.
Facts. You don't want it to think abstractly too far.
Yeah, I feel like, well, that like, coming back to the whole like when things get hard, I'm like, we're out. We're out. So like the teacher would be like, oh, why did the author try to do this? I'm like, I really don't know. I really don't know. I couldn't tell you. They're like, what literary devices are used here? I'm like, oh, this is fine. But then they're like, oh, but what do you think the author's trying to convey when they do this, and they describe the scene as this way, and you're trying to pull a claim evidence warrant, like 5-paragraph essay, and I'm like, that's too hard. I don't know, and I feel like I knew that wasn't my strong suit, so I was like, okay. Used to be pretty decent at math as a kid, and then things got harder as things get more difficult. So. I was like, okay, so that means probably going to go into something science related. Biology, I was like, that's a lot of memorization, I'm pretty sure. But that was also like a generalization completely. Physics, horrible at physics. If you're good at physics, you're just like a smart person in general. Horrible at physics. And then there was chemistry. And then I was like, I really liked chemistry. I wasn't like the greatest at it, but I liked it enough. So I was like, chemical engineering, here we go.
Oh my! There's got to be more to it than that. You just picked that at random. It's not the most common thing. People just like, oh, let's go to that. Like, I'm gonna look it up after the podcast, but I'm pretty sure it's got to be top 3 hardest engineering fields.
It is very hard. It was.
So it's funny to just pick it at random. You're like, well, I'm not really good at literature and humanities. So maybe I'll just go into like a really hard science.
Thinking back on it, yeah, probably. I don't know. But I think, like, from a young age, like, my parents knew that I liked science. I remember, like, when I was a kid getting Christmas presents, it'd be, like, 101 science experiments.
Yeah. So were they in that world at all?
My dad's an electrical engineering professor, but my mom studied nutritional science, and she was a registered dietitian, but then she pivoted, and before she retired, she was a high school Mandarin teacher.
Oh, okay.
So
your parents have experience in STEMs, kind of? Your dad for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then just in the background of education and like, okay, so that makes sense. What, your dad a professor in Chicago?
Yeah, he's at IIT.
Oh,
yeah.
Right down the street.
Yeah, right down the
I literally
street.
just drove past it today, past the students thinking like, oh, this is probably their last week in the cold down IIT. That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow, right down the street. Yeah, I go past that campus like every day.
Yeah, I used to go with him sometimes, but I haven't.
So you're familiar with this area a little bit.
I'm right
down
yeah.
the street.
Yeah, right down the street. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay. Well, that makes a little sense. You have something of a pathway that you saw, like your father doing that kind of world.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Like, I really did enjoy like the science stuff, except I remember, science gets hard. Remember in 6th grade, I'm pretty sure I got a C in science because I couldn't explain what a convection current was. And like my teacher was like, why does this happen? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, you have to think. And I'm like, thinking? Because like things, I think I was so used to like not thinking about things just came naturally. And then like things would get hard and I had to like do something.
Try.
Comes back to the violin thing. Like definitely peaked when I was in 5th or 6th grade. Like I definitely picked up like violin a little bit later than some of the peers in like we had like a really bad.
At 5 years old, that was a little later? Were they picking up at 4 or 3?
I guess like my frame of reference is like my childhood best friend who grew up in a very musical family. She started homeschooling at like 5th or 6th grade for violin, but she started violin probably around like 3 or 4 or something,
Okay. Yeah.
But like even like the people who weren't so serious, like I was already coming in a little late with the orchestra, the 5-person orchestra that I was in at my elementary school. And so
that's something people don't realize about the professional music world, the orchestra music world, the traditional music world. That what you're bringing up really matters. People hear like, oh, you started learning at like 5 or 6. Like I don't see like no, that world and the families around it are so obsessed. I mean, it's like trying to get a Nobel Peace Prize if you're assigned. It is obsessed.
Yeah.
You learn at 3, you learn at 4, you go to lessons, you are doing all the school stuff, you're having extra lessons outside of it. It's obsessive.
Yeah.
And like you said, you start to notice at a certain age, you'll know, like, I'm not as good as these people.
Yeah. But
I don't know if I ever will be, you know?
But at least, like, at that age, like, there isn't, like, kids learn so fast, though. So, like, I did catch up pretty quickly. But that reminds me of, like, when I was taking group lessons, when I was a little older, there was, like, an entire, like, there was, like, this dynasty, this family that had, like, 5 kids or 4 kids, and they all were homeschooled, and they all played violin, and one played cello. And it was crazy. you know, I'm, like, in the group class, and it's, like, people who are in, like, 7th and 8th grade, and then you have a 2nd grader with us, and it's, you know, but that is the reality of it.
And were a lot of kids homeschooled in that world for you?
No, I think that was, like, the only family. I think there was one more kid. Yeah, this was so long ago, but I think there was one more kid that was homeschooled in that group lesson setting. But
homeschooling is interesting because in my experience with it, and I have some of my own homeschool experience and then family members and friends, what I've noticed is there's kind of 2 extremes with homeschooling. You end up being a terrible student because you didn't learn anything because the people involved, your parents, who else would it be, weren't very good at it, didn't try. Maybe they weren't educators themselves and they just were kind of lazy, maybe a little strict in a religious sector, you know? And then they put that onto their kids and it ends up screwing the kids.
Oh, yeah.
They don't learn much and it's a problem. And there's like not much of a happy middle ground, and there's really, really smart homeschool kids whose parents were really good with academia. Maybe they are professors or educators. And they put all their time into it, and they're really disciplined. And the kids end up being like the smartest kids because they almost get what you would want at like a nice private school. You only have like 8 kids in a class. You get a lot of attention from the teacher.
Yeah.
It's very organized, very strict.
Yeah.
If you do that well, you can make it. You can create almost a really intelligent person because they had so much focus on every subject from one person for 8 years of their life, 10 years of their life.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you don't always get a good middle ground like you do with at least with public school, you get a good middle ground average of like everyone can kind of learn a little bit of everything. It's not as good as the private school one-on-one action or 1-on-8 action. It's like 30 kids. But you definitely don't get as much of the problem you get with homeschools where the parents aren't trying. Maybe they're, again, a little too much into religion or they think the world's going to hell, so they're going to like, we have our kid be homeschooled. Yeah. And that's I've seen some of the most psychological damage in
I've
like
seen that
kids
too.
like that. But then I've seen some of the smartest people I've met have been homeschooled. But they have really great foundation. Their family puts a lot of effort and money into it. They buy them books. They make them go socialize. They do all the right stuff. And then that kid ended up getting so much good attention in academia for their whole life that they're actually really, really smart. More than they would have been if they just went to like a public school. So just a side note, I've noticed that with homeschooling. And whenever someone's homeschooled and they played an instrument, they're usually phenomenal at it because it's all they did. It's all they did. They didn't have only 1 hour a day, like a music class. And
no, they would practice like, 3 hours here and then, homeschool break, do
and
our
another
lesson.
3 hours.
Yeah.
Exactly. At least 10 times the amount of time to practice for someone who's in classes all day, especially classes that have nothing to do with music.
And then you have other after school activities, people play sports.
Distraction
blah, blah, blah.
from your peers.
Yep.
Your peer, hey, come play football this Friday night. I can't. I have violin lesson.
Yep.
No, come play. Okay. But if that person never existed, the person who plays violin would be like, oh, I have nothing to do Friday. I'm going to play violin.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it also can create a lot of introverts who wouldn't have been if they're just stuck inside all day playing music.
I feel like sometimes there might be like a little social like awkwardness, or maybe they just don't have such good, I don't know, like communication skills with peers, I would say. And also like you have book smart people, but do they have any street smarts? Like maybe, if they're lucky or if their parents like did it right and like expose them to like good situations and things like that.
Yeah. The school's up by, you said Skokie. Those. Yeah. Did you go to a public school or a private school?
Public.
Public school. Yeah, but they're nice up there.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, so it's not so. Some public schools are just as good as a private one, depending on where they're located. So I'm gonna go back to, you got a bass.
Yep.
We'll come back to this. 4 years ago.
Yep.
And you were describing like learning the bass, but you brought up the finger picking versus picking. What made you want to go into the finger picking? There are 2 different ways of playing bass, especially when you learn older in life. A lot of people go towards picking. It's a little bit easier, but not for you.
I could not figure out how to hold. I kept dropping the pick, and then my hand would cramp, and then I'm just like, I liked the tone that the sound that you would get when you pluck with your fingers, and I was just like, I don't know. I thought if I learned how to play with my fingers, then the pick would somehow just come as well at some point, which is kind of and kind of not true. But
you can also get more gigs and open up yourself more and more bands if you can finger pick.
yes, so
way more.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, because finger picking can work if you can do it well. I'm assuming you've gotten much better at it. If you can do it well, it can work across all genres.
Yeah.
Picking only works in certain ones.
Yeah, exactly.
So you kind of narrow yourself. And it's like if you learned how to play drums and you can rock out playing traditional, but also can still play like in a metal band and still play traditional, but then you can play jazz. Like you can do everything.
Yeah.
You opened yourself up to play in any band.
Yeah.
If you could play that way. But if you're only playing one way, you might not be able to hop into a jazz band.
Yeah.
For like a wedding gig, which could pay well.
Could pay very well, yeah.
But because you don't play that one way, you might not be able to fit in. You might not even get looked at or hired. So I'd say finger picking will open up your world a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually just started playing with a pick this year. Let's see. I got asked to like join a band, and then I got asked to like fill in for another band, and they're like, "Oh, can you play with a pick?" I'm like,
Yes, I can.
I'm like, I'll learn. And
just
then,
lie. Just say, yeah, sure. And then you go home and spend 20 hours learning how to do it. And then you
I spent so much time this year playing with a pick, just trying to figure it out, how to like relax. Like this is an issue across like violin and playing bass. Like my shoulder really tenses up. Like I lift it and I can't like relax it.
Have you ever heard it doing anything, or just from music?
No, it's just from music. Like in violin, like one of the things that I hated, and part of the reason why I probably quit because I couldn't figure it out and it was too hard, and I was like, screw that. It's like spiccato where you like you bounce. It's like a bouncy stroke. But like you have to relax your shoulder, your bow hand, that shoulder. And so like I would just be like, and then you have to like really open your elbow. It's coming from your elbows. You're not moving from your shoulder. It's from the elbow. And so that just kind of carried over into bass. Like I would record myself, like look at myself in the mirror while I was playing, be like, I could just notice like my shoulder like starting to creep up. It didn't happen so much with like playing with my fingers, fingerstyle, but with the pick, because I was like, oh my God, can't drop the pick. And also like that motion was just like not fluid for me yet. I think the tensing up made my shoulder just like, so I'd be like, okay, consciously thinking, relax my shoulder, try to not drop the pick, and then pray.
Yeah.
Pray.
Keep praying. What kind of pick do you use? Does it have a grip on it? Does it have a star, like a punch hole so you can grip it?
Yeah, so I've been toying around with a bunch of different picks. My bandmate actually did give me a few picks with like grips on it, and it is a little thicker. I did play that for a little bit. You know, he is a bass player to begin with, and then he's our guitarist.
Which band is this?
This is Gnarly Gap.
Gnarly Gap.
Yeah. So, you know, was playing with that.
Skateboarders must be.
Yeah, actually, we like how it all started.
Hearing those two words in conjunction, like I only could think skateboard.
Yeah, like actually, like the music that we play isn't very necessarily like skate punk. We have like one or two skate punk songs, I would say, but like we all skated at some point.
That's where it must have came from.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. But you know, he gave me a few picks and like let me try them out. Like I was using that for a little bit, but then I went to something like a little thinner, and so now I'm still like toying around with. I don't even know what I'm using. I'm like using picks that I've picked up at shows or whatever I just see laying around, or picks I've had laying around for a while, and just seeing what works best for me at this point in time. And I can't even tell you.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you. I'm like, it feels good, and I'm not dropping it, and we're playing the right notes and on time, in rhythm, like sold.
Yeah. So once you find out what works for you, you'll be like, okay, now I know my brand, you know.
Yeah.
It took me years, too, to find one. I like the one with the little star punch in it, so your fingers can touch and get an extra grip, because I get really sweaty when I play, and the pick would go flying out of my hand, you know.
Yeah.
So I relate to that. And I play bass, too, but I never picked up doing it with fingers. I play a couple things with my fingers, but I've always been a pick person.
Guy, yeah.
Yeah, I never went down that more serious, official bass playing where you're like, okay, I'm gonna do the finger picking, kind of get into that style. Although I love it and I appreciate it more, I probably should do it.
Yeah.
I just don't play any bass in a band right now, so I don't really have much of an incentive.
Yeah, no, it's like this past 2 years I've been trying to incorporate using my ring finger while I fingerstyle too. And it's like, first I start with like just like the gallop like Steve Harris does, like and then but like trying to like one of my bands is a death metal band, and so we're playing, 16th really, really fast notes, and I'm just trying to be like, okay, can I use my ring finger and consistently play like 16th notes in rhythm in time with it? So
What's the death metal band?
it's called Wratheon.
How many bands are you in right now?
Right now, I mean, technically 3. Yeah.
3. What's the third one?
It's called Hoverboard.
Hoverboard. Okay, I knew that.
That one is, I don't know, shoegazy.
Yeah. Hoverboard is the one band out of the 3 that I actually like know of and heard and listened to. Yeah.
How did you find out them?
In the same way I found you.
Okay.
The internet, Spotify,
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook. That's how I find a lot of stuff. But yeah, Instagram is really helpful for it because I've been on there long enough, have enough friends, use it enough to where I'll see a lot of overlapping like artists and people from different places, but similar overlapping circles. When you do something like this long enough, you can't help but run into similar people.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So you said like a shoegazy, more metal, and the other one's kind of like a punk? Or?
Yeah, I would say Gnarly Gap is like indie punk.
Indie punk,
Like
okay.
no 2 songs really sound the same. We have like, I feel like how to best describe Gnarly Gap is like our intensity. Like you can really feel it from the songs and also when we play live. And like we do have like a lot of like, it's really a feely like, okay, this gets really fast here and like slows down here. And like it's a very feely type of band. I don't even know how to describe it, but I feel like that's the best way.
Okay.
But yeah, so joined a Gnarly Gap in 2021, September of 2021, Craigslist band.
Oh, I was going to ask, so you just start playing bass in 2020. How do you get into the music scene? How do you get into band? How did that happen for you?
So I'd been playing for like about a year, and then I was like, think it's time to try to join a band. And I'm like, COVID was still like a thing, but I'm like, you know what? Let's see what's on Craigslist. And honestly, I like saw the ad. I'm like, oh, Humboldt Park. I live in Humboldt Park. Okay. And I'm like, honestly, I don't listen to a lot of punk music, but I was just like, let's just try it. So I like responded to the ad, and then the guy, Scott, he sent me like demos of music that he's been working on, and I learned a few songs. Then we met up at the music garage. I texted him like, "You're not a serial killer, right?" And then
I'm glad I didn't get that text message.
I'm just like, I'm like,
You're not. If you sent me those, you're not a serial killer, right? I'd be like, no, I'm not. How are we supposed to answer that?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
And he was like, "There's cameras all around the music garage." So like, no. So I'm like, okay, great, because I'm like, it's, I don't know, being like a female, like a woman showing up to like a space.
Oh, yeah.
For me at the time, especially, I'm like, this is my first time doing anything.
I can't believe you did that.
I was
to be
just
honest,
like,
I'm like the fact that you're like, I'm gonna go on Craigslist, this trustworthy website, not Facebook Marketplace, not DIY Chicago, where you can ask DIY Chicago with 22,000 members, like, hey, is this band, like, you can vet people in so many ways now.
Yeah.
That a lot of people don't realize there's ways to vet people before you even meet them.
Yeah.
You can Google their name. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Some people are like, how do you know if you could Google their name? Do really good stuff pop up? Or do prison records and mugshot? Like, it's not that hard. You can Google names and find out a lot about someone.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
No.
Especially if they have certain jobs, they'll pop up in companies. Like, you can figure it. It's not.
Yeah.
But for a woman, Craigslist,
Yeah.
warehouses in Humboldt Park and Pilsen, like just going to random like music shops or music practice spaces. They might be safe inside, but just getting to them.
Yeah.
They tend to not be in the nicest areas.
Yeah, luckily, like, this was in West Loop, so I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. And then, we jam. It's just us two. And, he's just like, well, you learned the parts. And I'm like, yep. And he's like, all right, cool. So that's kind of how I joined.
Wow.
And then we found a drummer, Craig. I don't know if it was Craigslist, but I think he knew of the guy and from a different group or something. We got a drummer, and then we were 3-piece, and then we were like, okay, let's add another guitarist. And then so still, I think it was Craigslist again. This was all Craigslist at some point, and then we got our other guitarist. So that's kind of how that all sorted out, and then we played our first show in April of 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where at? Do you remember?
Pilsen DIY.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know about that. So have you been playing a mixture of like smaller venues and DIY venues, or
Yeah, I would want to say
like dive bars and stuff?
Yeah, that year we played a lot of shows that year, which was great. You know, my first year in a band, you know, playing a bunch of shows. So much fun.
People should be upset with you right now. You're like, I'm just going to pick up bass, go on Craigslist, get in a band and play a bunch of shows.
Yeah. And
that takes people like a decade to get to. And you were like, I'm just going to. But that goes to show that you put in the effort.
Yeah.
You also weren't going in blind. You had musical experience with violin.
Yeah.
So you weren't like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But still, it's pretty bold to do that like on your own with. You had no friends being like, oh, you should check out this. Did anybody guide you with this stuff?
No. I was just like...
So where did that come from, the audacity?
I don't know. I think it's like something that I've always wanted to do. You know, like the pandemic happened. And I'm like, I'm going to do the things that I want to do because I have time right now. And then I was just like, I've always wanted to like play on stage. And I realized after like my first show, I realized like, wow, I love playing live. And so I'm like, this is great. I really enjoy this.
Yeah. Auxiliary.
Yeah, and I remember I was so nervous that day because I was like, oh my God, things are gonna go wrong. I don't know. I was really nervous that day, but like when I got up there, it was fine. You know, Pilsen DIY, like I remember like they were, you know, it's really dark and no lights and like. You have like all these like, I don't know, fluorescent or like LED lights on the side or something that were on. And, you know, as a person who, you know, looks at my fingers while I play on the fretboard, I'm like, am I playing the right note? And like, I hadn't like been in that situation before yet. Still being somewhat relatively new to the instrument. I'm like, I think I played the right note. I can't really tell right now. I heard it, didn't sound right, but I wish I could have like seen it, but I'm not going to be like staring at my fingers or something.
Yeah. But at least you have frets.
Yes, I do have frets.
So if you have your ear training from violin with a fretted instrument, with enough time on it, you should be able to play with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
Right? Because you could feel the frets. You would know where things are.
Yeah, now it's way easier. Like now I can play with my eyes closed. And like I know like how far down, like, okay, this is...
What kind of bass are you playing, do you know?
So I have a bunch of basses at this point in time.
Oh, okay.
With Gnarly Gap, the guitarist, like, Scott lets me use his Music Man Stingray. Super nice. Very, very nice. And then with my metal band, I use a Schecter C4. It's purple. That's literally the reason why I got it. It's purple, and it was like a neck-through construction. So I was like, oh, beautiful. And then with Hoverboard, right now I'm using, I just actually bought it a couple months ago. I got a Jazz Aerodyne. It's blue. It's baby blue, and it's beautiful. A Fender Jazz Aerodyne. It's made in Japan. And I like, my friend had linked it to me a couple like years ago in like 2022. I think this was like the last year they were making it. They were discontinuing this line, and it was on sale for like $749. And I was just like, yeah, maybe. And then I never ended up buying it. And then like this year, I saw that it was like discontinued. I'm like, oh man, I really should have bought it.
Yeah.
And then I would just like randomly check Reverb sometimes here and there. And everyone's like trying to sell this for like $1,500 at this point. I'm like, no. But then I saw someone selling it on Reverb for like $950. And I'm like, I'm buying it. And it was like mint condition. I'm like, I'm buying it. So I just pulled the trigger like immediately. And so, yeah, that's been sounding really great right now. 3
different basses. It's very interesting. Is it weird to hop on different basses for different projects? Or you just gotten used to it now?
I've gotten used to it.
It's all very different basses.
They're all very different basses. Like my metal, like the Schecter has very low action. Are
they all 4-string?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're all 4 strings. Like my Jazz, the action is very high, I would say. And then, and like my hands are a little smaller, so like I do like a thinner neck and a thinner nut.
Yeah.
And so that's why I really like my Schecter at this point in time.
I was going to ask if you ever played the Fender Mustang because it's a smaller scale.
Yeah, but that's too small. I feel like it's a child's toy.
Too small?
That feels way too small.
small.
I did try that as well, but
A lot of smaller or petite individuals
Yeah.
will end up playing a bass like that when it's a shorter scale. For that, just too much to go
yeah.
down the neck for some people,
But also like then like I want to play like frets higher than 12 or like 15, but then it gets convoluted and you're like so at least like with my Schecter it's like really nice. I'm like, okay, like I can reach all this other stuff. But other than that, I still have like 2 more basses at home that I have as well. So I have like some crappy fretless 4-string that I bought a couple years ago. It has like a really nice like fretboard. It has like flowers on it, and I just wanted a fretless bass just to mess around on it. It was like $250. I bought it at like Tommy's on Chicago, in Westtown. And then, I have a 5-string as well because I listen to a lot of metal music. So
have you always been into metal?
yes.
Okay. It's funny. I've noticed a through line of classically trained musicians and metal.
Oh,
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Of course.
Tell me about this. So I'm not crazy for
No,
generalizing and assuming and stereotyping.
No, like absolutely. It's all very classical. Like guitar solos in metal it's like violin concertos and stuff. Absolutely.
It is. Yeah.
And
the precision.
Yes.
The obsession with the precision is such a classically trained thing. And it's why I've worked with a gazillion metal people. And I've noticed 2 things about metal people. A lot of them have some type of classical training. Not everyone, but where you do see a musician go from classical into playing in bands, it tends to be metal.
It's
And they tend to be the nicest people ever. And I think it's because of like that physical, psychoactive part of exercising, burning energy, like getting things out of you.
Yeah.
That aggression calms you down in ways to where someone would see people in metal bands. They almost look like the scariest people on planet Earth.
It's actually so nice.
Yeah, but they end up being like, oh, hey, like some guy's got like crazy stuff coming out of his beard and like, who even knows? It's braided with like a chain that goes to his ear. And he's like, oh, hi, I'm Tom.
Yeah.
I'm actually a mortgage broker and I heard you were looking for a house. And
Oh.
you're like,
Yeah.
Tom, what? I thought you like sacrificed babies or something, Tom.
Yeah, no, one of my coworkers, like he's like a few of us actually listen to metal and we like talk about it at work because like somehow you're able to just like sniff it out, or like once you figure out that someone like shares similar interests with you musically.
It says a
like
lot about them.
Yeah.
Especially as certain bands.
Yeah.
Like if someone's like, I really like, like, oh, I like metal. I enjoy like Sleep and like the Melvins. You'll start to say something about someone. You're like, oh, okay. Well, then you probably like this and that.
Yeah.
Or, I really like, I'm into progressive metal. I enjoy Tool. And you're like, okay, well, now that's
what they, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it says a lot,
Absolutely.
specifically metal, because it's such a leap to go into that world
But
for
also,
most people.
Yes, and also people love to like all the subgenres, and people all hate each other and be like, this one sucks and blah, blah, blah. Like, I feel like there's so much discourse on that.
There is.
There's so much
There is.
discourse on
But you
that.
get that in any small world. It's not small. The metal world's huge. But when you go
Yeah.
down that path, you'll get that there. You'll get it with indie rock. You'll get it with hip hop.
Yes. Oh,
Pop
absolutely.
music. It's like with pop music, it's almost the funniest thing. It's like, so it's all formulaic, but somehow that formula is better
Than your formula,
It's like
yeah.
they're all the same formula. Okay. I can't do that with pop music. It's like, it's all nonsense. It's fine. It's fun music. But
I
like,
love pop music.
Yeah, it's fun music. I enjoy it too, but like you gotta call a spade a spade. It's obvious what it is, and that's fine. But don't kid yourself. But metals, that's a different world. And I just wanted to bring that up as soon as you said. I was waiting for this moment, this whole conversation. When you brought up violin at the beginning,
Oh,
I was waiting for it
gosh.
to
Oh,
get to this
gosh.
point. I was like, okay, we're eventually talking about classical music
music.
and metal. Because I hear it every time a band comes in here. I get to talking, and we're setting up for a session, and before you know it, they're like, I grew up in orchestra. And
Yep.
you're like, of course you did. That's why you're playing this kind of, it's like the through line place. Yeah. It's very rare you hear someone is in orchestra and then now they play like sad indie rock music in their bedroom. Like that just doesn't happen as often.
Yeah, now I'm trying to think about if anyone that I know plays sad indie rock music in their bedroom that I like was in orchestra with.
You're like, I can't find it.
But also like my memory is very, I don't even like a lot of people that were in orchestra, like I did like violin group with, don't play music anymore, which is,
they got it tortured out of them.
or maybe they just like did it like, because like what I did also, I played oboe from like 4th to 8th grade.
For those that are watching the video part of this, your eye, oboe. That's how it's almost like oboe is meant to be played by Eeyore.
Yeah.
And whenever you talk about oboe, you have to sound like Eeyore. Like I play oboe.
Yeah, I mean, like it's not like when you first start out on that instrument, it sounds bad. It's hard to make the oboe sound pretty.
But so does the violin.
Yes, horrible.
Violin's a screeching murder scene, and then all of a sudden it starts to sound like angels.
Yeah, so when you
know?
start off like you're 5, and then you have to get a violin size that is 1/16 or 1/32, those things sound really bad. Also, the quality, you're not going to get like a really nice quality 1/32 violin. It's going to
What's a 30-second violin?
like, so like you have a full size violin, then you have like a half size violin, you go to quarter size, then you go to 1/16 size violin. It's just like getting smaller because like obviously.
Wait, they
like,
make violins a 16th the size?
I don't know if it's like actually
There's no way
like
it's pure scale.
No.
Okay, I was gonna
That's
say
just
like
no.
it's exponent. It's the size of my pinky nail.
Tiny violin or whatever. But that stuff
They make
sounds,
smaller ones.
Yes, yeah. You're not gonna have like some like 3-foot kid like play.
And it must be even
normal.
higher pitch then,
Yes, and it sounds horrible
because as you get smaller, the pitches go up. So like, even more scratchy.
So you're already not. You have a child who's playing on a very bad instrument to begin with, and their skill level is very bad. So it's.
And it's, in my opinion, it might be different for you because you've grown up playing it. I think it might be the hardest instrument to learn how to play well.
Yes, it's very difficult to learn
Not
to
just
play
play,
well.
but play well.
Play
Play
well.
fluently to where someone's listening, not going, ugh. You know what I mean?
Sometimes
It's hard.
Yeah, sometimes you hear a violinist like they're not great. They're not bad, but like that extra level to get it where it sounds beautiful all the time.
All the time. It's like 15 years. I swear to God, it's rare I hear someone that's really good until like their 20s. And they're like, I've been playing forever. It's like really good to where like every time they play, like, this sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It takes I'm sure it's case by case.
Sure,
But
absolutely.
it seems like it takes a lot of years of dedication.
It does. And
Whereas guitar, someone's like, oh, I've been playing for 3 years. And they're like shredding. You're like, what?
cool. Yeah, and then like you just,
different instrument.
you turn on the amp, you turn on the distortion, you're like, wow, sounds great.
Yeah.
Amazing. And like, piano, like your instrument will sound like that. You just have to play it in time. But like the instrument itself sounds nice already. You just hit a key and then it sounds like
It sounds pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, violin is not.
No.
It's so hard to make it sound right. And anytime someone's like, oh, I could get one good note, and you give them a bow, they've never held it, and it's just like, and they're like, how does heaven come out of this thing? It's like, well, hundreds of years of research and education and music theory and different styles of practice. And
Yep.
Yeah, I wonder how many kids, because you grew up with that, how many of it they didn't want to do is just the family or the socioeconomic status they're in. It's just kind of like pushed onto them.
That or like it was just like a thing to do, like I joined band because it was the thing to do. Like my sister, so the reason I played oboe is because I have an older sister who was 8 years older than me, and so she picked oboe, and so like my parents bought an oboe, and so when it came time for me to pick an instrument, they're like, well, we're not going to pay for anything else. You're going to play the oboe as well if you want to do band. And I'm like, I guess I'm playing oboe, which is great because there was one other girl who played oboe, and trying to like get into like the highest level of band at my middle school wasn't very hard for a lower, like a not widely played instrument. Like we need an oboe player, and you're good enough. Like you're like the flute section. There you have so many people going against each other, like trying to make like the symphonic band in 6th grade, coming out of like 2 years of playing flute 4th and 5th grade. Like you're competing with like a lot of more people versus like me is just me and this other girl.
Yeah. So lack of competition. We pick the more esoteric instrument, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What was the most popular one? Was it violin
Flute
or flute?
or violin, I say like, I don't know. I did like a program outside of school with violin, so I didn't join like my middle school and elementary school didn't have an orchestra, but like the sister middle school did. And then in high school, my freshman year, I did choir. And then I was like, I'm gonna pivot and do orchestra my sophomore year. So there are a lot of violinists, of course. We had 2 people played the double bass, a few cellists, some
I
viola.
was say better off playing viola.
Yeah, could have been. I think there was one guy who played violin and then pivoted to viola. Yeah, a lot of violins. A lot of violins.
That's the most popular one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you went from violin, oboe. Anything else?
No.
No.
You can't count the recorder that we all had to play.
No. Hot Cross Buns
No.
works on recorders.
Yeah.
So bass, you have a bunch of basses. You've been getting involved in the music scene only for the last 4 years, but you weren't
Yes.
ever doing anything in the music scene before that?
No.
Concert goer, show goer?
Avid show goer for
Okay.
sure.
So you were at least aware. And by show I mean like DIY shows, small dive bar shows, like that kind of stuff?
No.
Or more like a Lincoln Hall, Beat Kitchen.
Like went to
Shubas.
Reggie's a lot.
Reggie's.
For metal. Reggie's and Metro. I would go sometime to like Cobra Lounge.
These are all more metal places.
Yeah.
Reggie's, Cobra Lounge, Metro. Beat Kitchen will have
yeah.
some metal bands a lot.
Yeah. That was where Wratheon played our first show a year ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's a cool venue.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Subterranean will as well. Yeah.
Been there a few times. Let's see, like before, I'm like thinking about like before COVID, I went to a bunch of like hip hop shows and also a lot of metal shows.
Did you have friends or anybody in your circle that was in bands or in the music scene? So you just go to these shows with just friends, just as a music lover and stuff?
Probably usually went alone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
One of those.
I do like I do like going to shows alone because it's like if the person you're with like doesn't like the music or if like you've dragged a friend or whoever and then you're like, okay, like I hope you like this.
Yeah, they
hope
ruin
you like
it
this
for you.
music or like if they want to go, if they're bored, like I don't. It's just like way easier just to go alone. You can just like enjoy it by yourself and then, yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know.
I know a few people like that. I understand that perspective. I've tried it, but I don't have an issue with going to a show with people that like it and are fun to go to shows with.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I have enough people that I know that like enough. I would always just hit up someone like, oh, I'm going to this concert. I know you love this band. Like this will be an easy one. And a lot of friends who play music, a lot of friends in this. It has never been an issue for me. So when people say like they choose to do them, like, but it's so fun, like having your friends to talk to in the car or on the train ride.
Yes.
Having a friend to talk to in the waiting on the line, the bathroom, food, a beer in between sets, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Having that person. But if they're not right for each part of that, I could see how that could be actually more annoying.
Like, I feel like a bunch of metal shows I did go to by myself, like other shows and other festivals, if, like, a lot of times a friend would ask me or something, and I'd be like, yeah, let's go. Like, I think it's literally just like the metal shows because I didn't have, like, a lot of friends who listened to any sort of, like, similar music as me.
Okay.
So I'm like, I have no problem with going to them alone. They're fine. They're fun. But I also enjoy going to shows with friends and stuff. So, I mean, I think I do a good mixture of both. But I think at that point in time, I was like really listening to a lot of metal. And then I would go to like a few hip hop shows with a friend.
Why metal? What got you into metal?
I don't know. Sometime in high school, I would say. The pivot from K-pop to metal.
Classic.
The
classic normal K-pop to metal pivot.
Yeah.
I don't understand. It's probably because of my age and where I'm from and era, but I don't understand the K-pop's craze. But I should because I understand the American pop craze and the Swedish pop craze. I just, I guess it's because it's like, oh, I've seen this already. Why is everyone freaking out? It's just another version of a pop craze. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not... I'm 34, man. So like, I mean, you put all it together, and it's like I don't know. I kind of missed that whole boat. I just wasn't a part of that scene. I missed it.
I think, like, I don't really know much K-pop now. Like, K-pop is huge
Oh yeah.
right now, but I remember, like, freshman year, 8th grade, like, I was listening to K-pop, old school K-pop, and I don't know.
When did it start? Since you know more about it, like what?
I actually,
Is there a
I don't
beginning?
know anything about
like, I don't know
K-pop. Actually, don't know anything about K-pop, but I listened to it a lot, like, back in, like, '08 and '09.
Okay.
So I think that was a lot of, older K-pop bands that I feel like people might know, but I was obsessed with like this boy band, of course, and then I think something happened with their management company and like they had to like split off into like a few groups and then like something and then just the pivot from the K-pop to the death metal was just there.
But how do you go from K-pop to death metal?
I think, I always listened to like rock music in middle school as well. I was a big Sum 41 fan, My Chemical Romance. Like, I remember growing up, like my next door neighbors and they would be like blasting Sum 41 in their garage and we'd just be hanging out. Like, got a Green Day CD, got a My Chemical Romance CD for birthday one year. And like, I've always liked like that sort of music.
Yeah.
And then I think, I don't really remember, but it was just like, I feel like, I don't know, death metal. I think there was like, someone had recommended me something and then I listened to it. It was like melodic death metal. And then, melodic death metal isn't like crazy. It's definitely like more appealing to the ears.
Sure.
Very beautiful guitar parts and, melody lines are really nice. And it just took me a while to get into the harsh vocals. I will say that took me a while because I was like, this music is so pretty, but I just didn't really get the harsh vocals part. And now I'm just like, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
And so like that kind of just like opened a lot of different types of music for me. And that's why I'm here now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I enjoy metal a lot too. I didn't get into it too much, but more the last few years I've really gotten into it. Funny enough, in college I could only write long, intense papers to music I couldn't fully comprehend in the moment.
Yeah.
So I'd always play like a band like Tool. I'd put on a music that it's like these mind-bending riffs, these polyrhythms and polymeters and just poly everything. You're like, I don't know. You can't make sense of it. So when writing a paper, my mind couldn't attach to the pattern to get distracted.
I did. So you would put that on to write.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so smart.
And I did that all the time. And I would write like 30-page papers just listening to like 10,000 Days on repeat, just like really loud and intense. But it would help me just go for 15 hours straight.
Okay,
I would just listen to music like that,
So smart because when I do listen to music while I'm working, I get too attached to the music and I'm just like, oh, I'm following along with it and I'm like singing along or whatever. And then I'm like counting. I'm like, ooh, they did that cool rhythm thing there. But now I'm like, wow, should have done that. Should have done that instead. Yeah.
Well, you did just fine. You got a degree in chemical engineering, so you didn't need help writing papers in school.
Yeah, no papers.
And so chemical engineering, we can go back to that now that we talked about music. And what exactly are you doing with chemical engineering?
So I feel like I'm a process engineer. So essentially, I design like the process that a product will go to get from raw product to final material, final product. So, like one of my main customers I've been going to back and forth for years, their main product that I'm working on is like Greek yogurt and Greek yogurt products. And so their like main source of raw material is raw milk. And so you've had to design like the different unit operations the raw milk has to go through. So like first you'll separate the cream and milk, and then you'll pasteurize the stuff, and then you heat treatment, and then you might go through some high shear mixing where you add in protein powders and other powder and additives, and then mix it at high shear, and then you have all these different like stages of unit operations, and then ultimately they get fermented in these ferment tanks, and then they get sent to be packaged downstream. And so, like, what I do is, like, okay, I help size like the size tanks that they need. Typically, I feel like sometimes they'll tell us like what flow rate and what capacity they want to be producing every single day. So they're like, okay, we want to make 18,000 pounds an hour of this product every day. Or like, oh, our batch, we need to make this size is a batch size. So we need to make like 10 batches of this every single day. So then I size like line sizes to design like how to get from like a tank to another tank or a tank to a pasteurizer and blah, blah. So all the line sizes need to determine like what instrumentation I need for that, what valve arrangements we need to have for that, size, how big a pump is to get to pull your product from point A to point B.
Are you interacting with like mechanical engineers for all that stuff? Or?
Oh, I mean, kind of. So like chemical engineers and mechanical engineers can kind of do each other's jobs to a certain extent.
You heard it here first, everyone. So all you mechanical and chemical,
No.
quit acting so important.
No. But like we do have like mechanical engineer on our team, a few mechanical engineers on our team, but most of us are chemical engineers. So, you know, sizing pumps, and then we like give like on our team, I don't personally size our heat exchangers, but I give like the criteria that needs to fit and like the production operating points that the product needs to be going through, and then someone will help me size a heat exchanger for me, and then I'll like incorporate all of these, you know, big unit operations into my design. So like I'll go from like tank to here to there to, you know, separator to whatever, and then go to our ferment tanks, and then after that it'll get pumped and get sent to our fillers where they package the final product.
Wow. That sounds intense.
Yeah, I mean, I realize it's a lot stressful than I thought it was going to be.
It's all about how you're talking. You're like, and then I do this. Why am I talking about this right now?
I know, just because, like, I don't know, they don't, like, really tell you in school that when you graduate with an engineering degree that you're going to be making big dollar decisions. And I'm like, I don't want to be making...
Who else is going to be making those?
The adults in the room.
You are the adult in the room.
I don't. I'm a child.
Why'd you get the adult degree? One of the most adult degrees you can get.
Yeah, but I'm a child. I'm a 30-year-old teenager.
You're like, I'm a child.
You
don't sound like a child. You sound like a person who's got a good career. You play in bands. You made it here today. Here. I mean, yeah, no child could pull all that off.
Unless, yeah, I suppose not. I'm sure there's like some like 18-year-old who just like got past the bar and now they're like going to like work at a law firm at age 18 or something.
Well, the best part about what you just said is it helps to humanize us to realize that everyone doing everything is just some, was an ape that just got a little smart and got a piece of paper and now they're put in charge or something. Like that's everyone. That's why I don't really take government very seriously or corporations or even have much respect for them. No offense to you and what you do.
I literally...
what did you learn about this process? What did you learn? Because chemical engineers is very close to, I guess let me reverse this. Who are the people that create the chemicals that have to be mixed to make those concoctions? The cauldron that it gets put into come up with the yogurt.
Yeah.
And the shit that's in it that's not good for you.
Yeah.
Who comes up with that stuff?
The recipes?
Yes.
Oh.
The illegal stuff or the legal stuff that you shouldn't have in food. Who comes up? Who are the scientists that study chemistry that put that together? Are they
I have no idea.
That comes before you and they come up with those formulas and you just find the most rational way to implement the system?
Yeah, I'm just like, someone will tell me what the recipe is. I haven't, I've only been working at this job for a little over 4 years, and like my experience has been very different than other people in this job because like the projects that I've been put on, and like I've been put on a lot of small projects, and they're all like very small upgrades compared to maybe someone who's also been working here for 4 years, but they got put on like this massive project where they saw everything.
Okay.
So like what I've been working on so far, like I've been given the recipe every single time.
Oh, I see.
So like they'll be like, okay, we add this, and then you add this, and then you add this, and I'm like, okay, that's a lot of high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah, what are your thoughts? Because you don't look like someone who eats that way.
No, I actually don't like sweets.
That's a rhetorical statement.
I'm also lactose intolerant.
It's all rhetorical when I go like, wait a minute. Well, tell me how that works. Wink, wink.
No, literally no idea what they put in there sometimes. And I'm just like, you want to...
But you have some of an idea with your
Yeah.
background. You understand
Yeah.
chemistry. You understand what some of these things do, what they mean, what they represent. You have not consumed them.
No.
But you're fully aware, like, wait a minute. I know what that is. Why? We should not be putting that in our food.
Yeah. Some of the stuff I'm like, that's a crap ton of sugar.
What happens if you guys say anything working for that? Do you get fired or something?
I don't know. I've definitely like told my friends about like stuff that I've seen. I'm just like,
Tell us, what have you seen?
really gunky stuff.
Well, first question: have you signed an NDA?
Actually, I don't think so.
All right, let's hear about it.
I don't know. I actually don't know.
You signed an NDA that you didn't know was an NDA. Now that's the ultimate NDA.
Yeah, I don't know. But like, I don't know. This job sometimes just like really stresses me out because I'm like, no one told me that I had to make all these decisions that have monetary consequences, you know? Like
millions of dollars, probably.
Yes. Okay. So, fun fact.
You're like, thanks for making it worse.
Fun fact. I undersized a pump this past month. So I undersized this pump, and then this customer's been waiting for this pump, and then so they hook up the pump. Product is not flowing, and I'm like, oh no. And I'm like doing everything that I can. I'm like, okay, it's not undersized, it's not undersized, it's not undersized. And then I like contact our pump manufacturer and telling them these are all of our operating conditions. Like, this is what's happening, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, it should run, it should run. I'm like, that's what I'm saying. But then now we have to get a new pump because unfortunately I think I did undersize the pump. So that means there's just not enough power to get product from pump A to pump B. So how pumps work is like it's based off of differential pressure. And so like if, getting this product from point A to point B requires at a certain flow rate and requires like X, like 120 pounds of differential pressure. If this pump cannot say they can only provide like 70 pounds of differential pressure at this flow rate, then we're not going to see the product at our final destination. So I was like, well, great. I definitely undersized the pump. And then the worst part is like, because the pump is undersized, they can't run at the higher flow rate that we want it to be running at. And like this company has already made agreements with their like distributors, like say like, oh, we're ramping up production, and they probably like signed like some contract saying like, we'll give you like X boxes of product per day moving forward. And if they can't do that, I'm like, oh God, they're losing out millions of dollars a day on product every day. And that's because I undersized this one pump.
But the way the smile you have right now as you're saying it kind of makes it worth it. I'm glad that these things happen, because then you're like, it humanizes you, makes you realize, first of all, you can't take life too seriously. If a company has this much money to go on a whim to put into somebody that could make these mistakes and they still exist, it's a big system.
Yeah.
The food industry is a massive, massive system. A little crooked. But I wouldn't worry too much about it. I mean, what happened? Did you get chewed out? You get yelled at? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, the look of disappointment is way worse than, it's a smaller company. So and I've made a really good working relationship with this company throughout the years. I've done every single upgrade for them. It's always been really good. It's like the first time I've done something wrong, and you just see he's very stressed, and I'm just like, oh man, the look of disappointment is way worse. So from someone that you genuinely like working for, if it was a large angry customer yelling at me, I'd be like, oh no, large angry customer who has, I don't know what their morals are. If you're gonna sell, contaminated baby powder formula to underdeveloped countries, then yeah, that's what you do. I don't feel bad if I undersize your pump, but
when it's more ethical, nicer company, I could see that being that makes sense. Oh, I'd be so bad at that job. I would deliberately botch the big company stuff all the time.
Well, I think that's how you get fired.
What's fired?
Yeah.
Or I would take all the secrets and start leaking it on the internet too. I'd probably do one of those two things. Don't hire me for those jobs. I won't be a good employee.
Yeah, no, I'm, fortunately not leaking all the secrets and recipes.
No, you don't have to do that. I just love, there's certain jobs and careers that no one knows about. Like no one hears about it. It's not every day you run into people who do those jobs and you get to talk to them. So I always like to ask when I hear different careers. I find them all very fascinating. The paths people choose.
Yeah.
The careers that run our system, very important jobs that like are kind of have more weight to them than other jobs, like the people who are doing what you do. It's for our fuel to exist. Like it's a very insane job, very important job that like, gets completely overlooked because everyone knows about like a food company or whatever. They don't know anything else beyond that. They don't know about how this food gets made, how it gets transported, how it stays safe and clean, how we're told it's safe and clean when it's not, like everything in between.
Oh, yeah. And I will say like the worst part about this job, or one of the hardest parts about this job, is how to clean your equipment.
Do you have to do that?
So like you design, so say like you have like 2 tanks, and then you have like they have like outlet lines, and then these 2 tanks will have 2 shared lines, like one line to go to this tank and another shared line to go to this tank. So like, yeah. So like how to clean this tank and these line situations, you can't clean the tank and the line at the same time, like most of the time. So then you have to like think about things about like, okay, you can't have product and cleaning fluid contamination. So this is like called cleaning in place. So CIP isolation is a big deal because you never want your product touching cleaning fluid. You have, it's like caustic as your cleaning fluid, and so no one's wanting to eat caustic. And so like essentially like designing like to get from tank A to tank B or downstream of that, the process flow is very simple, but then you have to think about, okay, when we clean all this crap, how are we going to make sure that everything stays isolated from each other? And that's like the worst part, I would say.
Yeah.
So then you have to add in all these valves and like things and considerations just to make sure that like that gets done properly.
Wow.
Because it's all automated too, because you'll have valves that will be activated. You'll set like the program to be like, okay, this tank and this line will be cleaned. That line and tank can't be in production, and then you have to like say like, okay, now we're going to clean it. You'll set it to be clean, but then you have all these valves to be activated, and then
how they used to do this manually,
I don't
50
know.
years ago.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Some poor sap got into those nasty chemicals without a good ventilator and had to clean it.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's exactly how they did it.
Or like before like all these like HMIs or like computers we had and like the stuff, like someone would probably have to like physically go maybe activate a valve or something. I actually don't know.
That's how they did it.
Like they would manually
a lot of
like
lives had to
turn.
end for all these regulations and safety precautions and
absolutely.
automation, computer algorithms that figure this stuff out. It's because of humans.
Yeah.
Humans losing fingers, getting cancer from breathing in chemicals, going blind, you name it. A lot of poor people, literally.
Oh, absolutely.
And now it's like, I'm glad it's automated. I'm glad they have all these better ways of doing it. But man, how we got here was so nasty.
Oh, yeah,
we did to people to get to
why
these
we
places.
pasteurize things is because like they used to like feed cows crap. And then, the stuff that would come out of milk would be garbage. And so, you would have to pasteurize or like heat treat the milk just to kill all those pathogens and all the stuff that were in the cows that were eating crap.
Is that E. coli or no?
I should really know. I really should know what
I think that's
pathogens.
one of them.
I should really know what pathogens and stuff that are existing in dairy and hair products, but I don't really know. But see, this is why I didn't do biology. But like that's the reason why pasteurization exists, because capitalism wins the day when it's just cheaper to feed cows crap.
Yes.
And then just kill the germs later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
when it turns out if you just have a healthy cow, healthy milk, healthy chicken, healthy eggs, you don't have to do all that stuff.
Yeah, like there are people who drink raw milk, and people just drink it straight from, and it's fine.
I've done that.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine.
It's literally fine.
It's how we did it forever. It's how we got the idea. We've just been doing it forever.
Yes.
Nah, yeah, you are in a weird field. The chemistry, chemical engineering, anything with chemistry in this country is bizarre to me because we have really weird food compared to other countries.
And I would say, like, I don't even do any, like, pure chemical engineering anymore. Like, my old job was pure chemical engineering.
What's that? What's pure chemical engineering?
Like, pure, like, just, like, straight up chemical engineering. So, working in the oil and gas industry, oftentimes,
That's
like,
what you're doing before?
Before,
Okay.
yes.
Which companies? Like BP? Oh, that's
No.
where the NDA was signed?
No. So I worked for like a company that like licensed like the technology that like BP would be like a customer.
Okay.
So, but essentially like with chemical engineering in the oil and gas industry, you're oftentimes like essentially heating like things up, and then because you have crude oil or something, and you have your feedstock. And when you think about a distillation column that's like pure chemical engineering, it's like you're heating up, I don't know, crude oil or something based off of, the different components in crude oil. Each one of those has a different boiling point. And so like you're able to separate, kerosene, jet fuel, diesel out of the crude oil or whatever at different boiling points. And that's how you separate all that stuff.
And do you capture it and turn it into something else?
Yeah.
Take the kerosene out, use that for something else?
Yeah. So you can, I don't really remember any of this at all. It's like a lifetime ago, it feels like, but that's like essentially pure chemical engineering. That's what we learned in essentially like all of our classes. Like one of our biggest classes, like how many trays does this distillation column need if, we have this feedstock and blah, blah, blah. We want to do this with it. These are like our desired products and stuff out of it. Like that was like one of the bigger things you learned in chemical engineering. And, it's just like separating things from things.
Okay. So a good chemical engineer would make a great like baker or a great chef. The chemistry of baking.
Oh, I don't know.
Because baking is just pure chemistry at its core.
Yeah, it is.
So if you're really good at understanding chemistry, you could probably become a really great baker.
I feel like that could be true, but I'm like, now how many chemical engineers do I know that are actually bakers too? I think, no, there's just like one girl, she, I think she's like a math teacher now, but she was a chemical engineer in my major, and I think she bakes cookies now as well on the side.
Yeah, it's kind of like, if you go into classical music, you become a metalhead.
Yeah.
If you go into chemical engineering, you become a good baker.
Yeah.
No, probably not. But I always say, like, oh, you're in the chemistry, probably a great baker. Because I grew up baking my whole life, and it's the most chemistry-related thing you can do.
Yeah.
As far as, like, what you can eat. I guess so would be, like, making alcohol, like beer and wine. And
Yes.
Like, that's very much a chemistry thing.
That is
the highest level.
Yeah, I think one year for engineering open house, like, it's like one of those, like, science fairs you put on for kids. And so I think our thing was making moonshine and like telling
for kids,
just like telling them like the chemical process of how to make like moonshine essentially.
Do you still remember it?
I mean you just have to like distill the methanol out from the ethanol because those are two different boiling points. They're off from like a methyl group. So methanol, gives you blindness, and then ethanol is the fun one.
Oh, don't drink methanol.
Yeah, don't drink methanol. That's why if you ever see on like, if you ever drink like moonshine or something, it says like you have like 3 X's on it. That means it's been triple distilled. So it's gone through the distillation process 3 times to make sure all like the methanol has been extracted out.
So that's where people will get sick when they would do their own moonshine, make their own alcohol back in the 20s and early 30s.
Yeah.
They would, make it in their bathtub, and if they didn't
distill
it all right,
correctly, yes.
You can go blind, die, whatever.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is why drugs should be legal. So we can properly clean them and have them distilled right if it's alcohol, or not have fentanyl in it if it's a pill or cocaine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is why, because it actually has oversight.
Yeah, there you go.
Do drugs. No. Is it daunting, or is it frustrating to know what you know and then work in the industry and see some of the stuff they put in the food, knowing that you don't even eat it yourself? Like, better to be careful. What does that make? What does it feel like?
I'm just like, I don't know.
Not that it's all on you, but just as a person, as a human being who knows that knowledge.
Yeah, some of it does not feel great. Absolutely. Like, and it's like, oh, it's cheaper to use these materials because it's cheaper, but it's not necessarily better for the end consumer, like that stuff. Or sometimes I really convince myself, like, oh, this protein shake is used for, end of life patients and stuff, or like people in hospice and maybe they can't eat, but this is like a supplemental nutrition drink that people are intaking and get protein. And I'm like I'm trying to say like, okay, I'm contributing to society, bettering society because these people need it and we're making it. I'm helping make it, but I'm like, is this the best stuff to be consuming? Probably not. And it's like
you can even argue what led them to even need this to begin with. Was it a lifetime of eating the initial crap?
That
we produce in this country, and that's what led them to now the thing that I have to make for them to have because they went 80 years eating and living such a crappy life. Not even on their own fault, but just what America told them to, what pop culture said to do, what commercials say to do, what doctors say to do. So it's not really, that's the problem with it now. Like something like Ozempic, things like that that are helping people. It's like, why don't we fix the foundation? So that way later on in life, you have to keep going back to the foundation and jacking it up and keep putting new concrete in there. We just had a good foundation to begin with that went to bedrock. And it can hold for 1,000,000 years. Like, why didn't we just do that? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just like, I think about this all the time.
I'm sorry. You look disturbed.
No, it really is though. Cause I'm like always thinking about like, what crap are we like injecting in our food all the time and stuff,
Serious crap.
And I'm just like, and I used to make fun of people who used to shop at Whole Foods and buy organic things when I was younger. I'm like, hell no, I can't afford that. And I'm like, I still can't afford it, but I'm like, I understand why people do it.
Yeah.
Like, and that makes complete sense. But it sucks. I'm like, okay, to get organic stuff, it's way more expensive. It's so much more expensive than if you just like went to buy like the regular crap at the grocery store. It's cheaper, it's more affordable, but what the hell is in there? I don't know.
You have to almost, we're taught to like invest in our education.
Yeah.
We're taught maybe you should exercise a little bit. I think we should exercise more. We're taught to save up to buy a house. We're taught to get married. We were not taught much about food, nutrition. We're not taught about the chemicals and the things in it.
No, absolutely not.
At all. And we're just taught like, oh yeah, just like, get your
Red
bread.
40.
Yeah. Oh my God. I've become a little bit of a pseudo-chemist myself. I just look at the back of everything now. And I've taught myself and learned through years, books, YouTube, whatever, doctors, whoever, what's good, what's bad, what not to have. And man, my God, like 99% of everything you see, you can't eat. You shouldn't eat. You can eat it. You probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
And then, you have to go to a Whole Foods, go around the edges to where something's refrigerated, and it has to say organic, and it's going to be $19 for something that should be $8.
Yep.
And you buy your groceries for a week, and you're like, why is this $130? I'm like, this is like 7 meals. Like, how am I supposed to live like this? But it is the healthiest food you can get, aside from going to a farmer's market or growing it yourself. It's like the next closest thing. It's so expensive. Even that stuff is not as good as you would think, or as pure as you would think, or as organic as you would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do, but I wish the people that make these rules, the people that are 30-year-olds that claim to not be adults, but not you, but our contemporaries,
Yes, sure.
I wish that they would see that. The investment is in the future of making sure that we're good at our foundation instead of just constantly feeding us this garbage. And then they have to use the drugs to fix it, and then it's a mess.
And then big pharma's like, haha. So.
And that's a complicated one too, because they do make stuff that is helpful. Truly, like keeps people alive, like in a good way.
Yeah.
And then they make awful drugs that like kill people every day, and then they make a bunch of drugs that just get recalled. And so it's like some good, some pure evil, and some in this gray area that don't really make it, and they probably would end up being bad. So, but again, even that pharma, the drugs they're giving you are because of a lifetime of not helping you. So now you do need the Ozempic. You do need metformin for your diabetes that you got because of the food industry.
Yep.
You wouldn't have needed it. So now it's like, metformin's great. It saves my life. It's like, but you wouldn't have needed it. You didn't have 40 years of shit in your body.
Yeah, exactly.
I know it helps, but like you wouldn't
have needed it in the first place if we just did things correctly in the first place.
Peter to pay Paul. That's what it is. Robbing Peter to pay Paul. You know that saying?
No.
It's a biblical saying, but it has gone into pop culture. It just means like kicking the can down the road.
Oh,
like putting a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. On a positive note, though, at least people like yourself are in that world thinking about it.
I do think there is thinking happening. Now that
Do you talk to your fellow employees there? Do you guys ever talk about this stuff? Or is everyone just like tapped out on it?
We're always just like, we're not getting paid enough for this. We're like, why am I thinking about this late at night? And like, why am I thinking about the fact that I've undersized this pump late at night? Or like they're not paying me enough to care this much. It's like that's what we mostly talk about, and like be like, oh man, this company is making all this money, but apparently we're not seeing a lot of that anyways. So
that's another big problem.
Love to see it.
Who are the people, and this is a rhetorical question.
Sure.
Who are the people at your company that make sure that the company can make their money?
Who are the people at the company that make sure?
It's you guys. It's the people on the ground floor doing all of the work.
Yeah.
That make the company the money.
Yes. And then we don't see any of the money.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's always going to salespeople. I'm like, what are you doing? You're just going out and getting drinks with a customer, and then that's it. And like you're talking like making big empty promises to the customer, and be like, oh yeah, our engineers can do that. We can design that for you. And I'm like, why don't you come and design it? You want to do this? Feel free. I'll take your job. Actually, no. Do not want to talk to people. So
yeah, that's the sales team and the consultants.
Yeah, and they're just like, yeah, we can do that. And then the people who are actually doing all the work, you're like, who said this? Who said this?
I know. Every time someone's a sales rep, or in the music industry, they're in A&R, or they're in a big industry, maybe tech or finance or something with computers, and they're a consultant, and you're like,
yeah,
why does all these people get six figures to kind of hypothetically do anything? It's all hypothetical.
It's all hypothetical.
And they get a lot of money to do hypotheticals and a lot of fun. There are these dinners, these hotels. I'm like, I know you're working a lot, but so is like my dad or uncle who installs fences in the winter. So what are you complaining about? Like, you have to work 60 hours. So do they, and they get paid $18 an hour and no fun, no free dinners, no fancy outings, no golf trips, no cruise ships, no first class, and they work just as much. So I have no world's smallest violin, as you know about, the 1/16th violin for you people out there.
There it is.
I saw such a different mood in you when I brought up the food stuff. You're just like,
oh God.
You're like looking at the carpet a lot. Like, why did he have to bring this up?
No, it's fine.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother you.
Oh no, it's like completely fine. It's always just like really funny to talk about like work with like people who like don't have like a corporate job, or just like talking about corporate life in general, but then like also like the engineering part, and everyone's always like, oh, it's so cool. I'm like, not really.
That's how everyone feels about their work.
That is very fair.
Especially like technical stuff.
Yeah,
that looks like magic to other people.
Yeah,
like, how do you?
And I'm like, I don't even know how to explain this, because I'm like, do I even know what I'm doing? No, no. You want me to explain this to you? No, because I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you had to know enough to get to that.
Fake it till you make it, right?
That's what happens in a lot of jobs. You get just enough of the right grades in high school or college to get in, and you realize, like, I only know like 2% of what this industry requires, but I'll figure it out as I'm here. Yeah. Because it's just learning. You're just learning again.
Yep. I'm constantly learning something new every day. I'm like, oh,
That's what's cool about that kind of job.
And I'm like, great. Right? New learning experience.
There's some jobs, though, that you just repeat the same thing over and over. You don't learn anything.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if I would like that type of job, because I never had a brain off job. So I'm like, I kind of want a brain off job sometimes. I don't know. It could be appealing. You've never had one? No.
Not even like high school or anything? Nothing?
My job in high school, I worked as a high school or a children's gymnastics instructor.
Oh, you did gymnastics growing up? We haven't even touched on gymnastics?
I'm not good at gymnastics either.
I'm sure you're better at it than some people. I mean, you wouldn't have done it and then taught it if you weren't decent at it.
I mean...
Or are you saying you're not good at it compared to the people you've seen do it? Is that what you're saying?
I was just not very good at gymnastics,
okay.
I will say. But like teaching kids, because it was fun.
Okay.
I think I like working with kids a lot, and like trying to convey like how to teach the movements to someone, and the age range went from like 6 to 12. You know, you have maybe you have like a beginner class that has a 6-year-old, but also like a 10-year-old. How do you get them both to like kind of get the grasp the same information that you're teaching them? So. Like, that was very interesting to me. And also it kept me pretty active. Like, very active
and
as
fit.
well. Yeah.
That's one of the most fit worlds is gymnastics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like unbelievably fit people. It's kind of scary. You're like, I don't even know. You're like a different human being.
Yeah. I don't know what you're doing. I'm like looking at back. I'm like, that was like 10 years ago. I'm like, ow. Body hurts looking at like me trying to do anything. Like I wasn't even that good. Like was not good, but that just looked painful still.
Always hurt. Always bruised. I have a couple students, and I teach at Illinois State University and at Columbia, and they are in gymnastics there or in the not the carnival, but like
the circus.
The circus, yeah, like circus, and they are always coming in beat up, concussions. This one girl's like, "Oh, I did this chain thing." We like roll down a rope with a chain, and she just had massive bruises all over her body. Like someone was just wailing on her. I'm like, she's kind of like tired of it, but also like happy to do it kind of mentality. I'm like, why?
I mean, you're also still young. I guess you can still do that.
Yeah, they're all between like 18 and 22.
Yeah.
But I'm like, is there a career in this afterwards? And they're like, no. I'm like, then why are you doing this to
Because
yourself?
it's fun. It is fun.
It is fun. I miss when I would deliberately get hurt and just have fun with it. I don't do that anymore, but I used to do it a lot, you know?
Think about going to like an adult gymnastics open gym at some point.
Oh, that'd be
friends
fun.
are thinking about it, so I'm like, kind of want to go.
You should do it.
Yeah. Would be painful, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, you can handle it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Good. Like that was like a good brain, still like a brain on job. So
That one?
yeah, didn't have any brain off jobs, I don't think.
I've had a few. I mean, you know, no job is fully brain off, but I know what you mean. There's some, like I worked at UPS for 7 years and 3 months.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that was the most brain off and / brain on job I ever had because I was so in my head because there was nothing to do and there is no thinking. So I just would plan out. I would just run through my life and scenarios and like map out everything. So as soon as I got out of that warehouse and out of that trailer, I can go home and like implement it.
Yeah.
Because you can't do anything. You're stuck in a trailer moving boxes, 1,000 an hour. And so you can't, there is no thinking. There's nothing, it's mindless. It's the most mindless, unskilled job ever. Very important.
Important, for sure.
Runs commerce, runs the economy, logistics. People don't realize how necessary they are.
Yes.
Overworked, underpaid field. But anyway, you can't think enough in that job. There's nothing to do. So I would just think, I would write songs in my head and then come home and just play them. Like I would create, there was just nothing to do. So I would write songs, I'd come up with ideas for the festival, come up with ideas of bands to reach out to, like just map it all out there because you couldn't break out of your mind there. You're just stuck.
Yeah.
And drove me crazy. But some people loved it. Some people were like, I don't gotta try, I don't gotta think, I have no responsibility. Nothing.
Yep.
I just do it and I go home and I get my check and like that's it.
Cool.
Not for me at all, but some people like that. I think some people say they like it, but they don't like it that much. They just don't have any other options.
That's fair too.
Yeah, but with my job now with teaching, there's no time, no brain off. It's just
always on.
Which I enjoy, but it's also not 40, 50 hours a week like what you do. It's 15 hours a week. So it's only like it's a smaller amount of time, but it is hyper brain on, answering questions, asking questions, dealing with an insane level of intelligence from some of the lowest people who barely got into college to some really smart people who are going to go to grad school and do great things, and everything in that
between.
whole spectrum. So you get really intense questions along with really intense scenarios that I have to decide on like in that moment, like should I let this person pass the class? Should I fail them?
Yeah.
They just email me with some heavy news about their parent. Like, what do I do? You know, you have to make all these, like you were saying, you were talking about millions of dollars you're responsible for. I'm not responsible for $1 million. I'm responsible for
someone's future.
Ruining lives of like these people I got to know throughout the semester.
Yeah.
So that's pretty, maybe not ruining lives, but kind of affecting their future. This could make them drop out of college. It could make them decide they want to go to grad school because they ended up getting an A. And it changed how they thought about themselves. Like the ramifications of one grade are huge,
big.
Especially at a
massive.
college level. Especially if people don't have a lot of money and they're barely getting by, and all of a sudden now they got to drop out. Like, so yeah, that'll keep you up at night. You're like, oh my god, am I ruining these adults? Because I was once them. I was once struggling in a classroom I needed help. So yeah, it's a hard one. Also very much underpaid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Academia is a joke.
Yeah,
when it comes to pay. Unless you have a very nice degree and you're at like MIT or Harvard or University of Chicago or something, you're not. I mean, you've probably experienced that with your father.
Yeah.
You know, has he stayed there a long time, or has he hopped from different?
No, he's been there forever.
Been there forever. Okay, so he probably does well now. He's been there a long time.
Yeah, he's been there forever.
Okay, that's good then. Is he a full professor there?
Yeah.
Okay, then he's probably fine. But at the beginning stages, in your 20s or 30s, just only adjunct here, only adjunct there. You know, you can't.
And then you have to like try to get tenure here, and you're like, oh God.
Yeah. You're like, do I even want to stay here this long just to try to get that? If it's a state school, you're like, well, I guess I'll get paid as much as if I just became a dishwasher full time. I should have just done that. Did you ever think of going to grad school?
No.
No.
My parents are like, you should go to grad school. I'm like, no. My mom was like, during the 2020, she was like, you should go back to school. You're going to really regret not going back to school during this time. I'm like,
I'm going to start a band, Mom?
Yeah, I'm going to join a band. And
you did your own grad school thing. You started a band.
Yeah,
you got
and
into
they
music.
hate it.
Do they still hate it?
They hate that. I'm like, they really don't like the fact that, like, I'm in a metal band. My mom thinks I'm going to do drugs and go down the wrong rabbit hole. And I'm just like...
Different generation, right?
Yeah, and I'm like...
It's
yeah,
not
I
how
have
that works.
older parents, too.
Okay.
So I'm just...
Like in their 60s?
70s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you had an older sibling. Okay,
yeah.
that makes sense.
But, like, they really want me to focus on my career. And I think I also wanted to focus on my career when I was in my early 20s at my first job, because that's all I knew. That's like, I went through the system of you go to school, then you go to college, and you get a 9-to-5. Like, I was
You did that.
I did that, but also, like, it was like, that's what all of my friends did. I did not have any friends outside of, like, work, essentially. I did not really hang out with people outside of work or, like, people I'd known from school.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
Because you just spent all of your time together at work. And then I was in, like, a rotational program when I first graduated that you would, first year and a half, you went through, like, 3 rotations, and then you would travel full-time after that. So, like, it's hard to, like, make friends outside of that when you're like, oh, I'm going to be gone next year for the entire time. I don't know if I'm going to be here, blah, blah, blah. And it was, like, easy to make friends with your coworkers. And, like, your coworkers are people who also just graduated college, and you're like...
Did you go to school in Illinois?
Yeah.
Can I guess your school? Damn it, I was going to say Urbana.
Yeah.
Why'd you take that from me? I'm
Sorry.
really good at figuring out what school people went to.
Yeah.
I just, being a professor and constantly talking to people and what schools they're going to go to based on their careers, where they're from, socioeconomic, neighborhood.
Yep.
I would have guessed you went to Urbana-Champaign. It's one of the best engineering schools in America.
Yep.
You live in state, so why spend the out-of-state money? It's not that far away. Your parents probably, as a younger girl, they want to keep you a little closer. Maybe don't go away far. Like, all those.
Yep,
But
exactly.
then you took it from me by No, it's a great engineering school.
Oh, it
Every
is.
engineer I know went there. It's, so it wasn't hard to figure out that you went there.
Yeah.
You like Champaign, Urbana?
It was a good college town, I would say.
It's a wild college town. A lot of
Wild
my
town.
students go over there because it's
Yeah.
like an hour
Oh,
away
wait,
from
exactly.
Bloomington Normal. And did you ever go over to Bloomington Normal when you were there? No. You're like, I'm staying here.
I'm staying
this is
here.
cooler.
Had no money to go over there anyways. Really fun college town for sure.
Great music scene.
Great music scene. I did go to.
Pygmalion. Did you ever go to that festival
Yes.
there?
Yeah. Well, only went my senior year, but I remember like my junior year, I like stood outside because I'm like, I can't afford this right now. So like stood in the parking lot with a friend and like listened to music. And I was like, this is good enough.
Oh, that's sad.
Who has money in college? I certainly did
You
not.
sneak in. You hop a fence.
Well, see, I don't like breaking the rules like that. I'm always too scared of getting like caught. Like whenever we would play like cops and robbers as like kid, I hated being the robber because I'm like,
That's the best part.
I'm like, I'm going to get caught, and I'm not good at thinking.
The thing is, though, because you're so unassuming, like you are not the cliche criminal that cops look for, is you're the type of person that if I had a friend like you, I'd be like, no, do it. You won't get in trouble. Like, you're the girl. Like, the guys are going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
First and foremost, every time. That's just the way it's going to go. And you're just like, I don't know, quiet and unassuming. Like, no one's going to think you're the criminal mastermind here.
True.
They're going to blame me. Like, look at me and look at you. I'm going to get the blame, and you can just talk your way out
So
of it.
I guess this is going to start my criminal arc now. I'm new path.
New path, Mom and Dad. No more metal. No more chemical engineering.
Crime.
Criminal engineering. That's what you went to school for.
Crime.
So your parents don't like that you're in metal bands.
No, my mom really hates it. And she's like, you're wearing all black all the time. You're like possessed by the devil and blah, blah, blah. And then she thinks I'm like going to go down like a really wrong path. I'm associating myself with like bad people. And she's like, people in the metal scene, probably not good. But people in the music scene, probably also not good. You're playing at bars, you're meeting people at bars. And you're probably going to meet very bad people at bars. And
So there's
gosh.
some truth to it.
Yes.
Except, are you an idiotic, moronic, naive, moronic? I'll say moronic person twice. Person? No.
No.
All those things can happen almost in any situation, more
Yeah.
likely at bars late at night.
Mm-hmm.
If you aren't well versed, if you haven't lived life, if you don't have a good head on your shoulders, if you're not smart.
Yeah.
But you seem to be all those things. So, like, when you do see a problem or a bar fight, you just go the other way. Like,
Yeah.
you can find yourself in a more likelihood of things going down like that. But you know what? I've heard worse things of the corporate world, to be honest, because there's more money, more fame, more power, more institutions to hide behind,
Yeah.
more strength, more connections. Who's going to get in more trouble? Me, who can't afford a lawyer, so I'm too scared to break the law, or the white-collar dude who's got millions who could afford a really great lawyer who
Probably
could-
walk away with
you
anything.
can get away with anything and
Yeah.
everything every time.
Yeah.
So I've heard of more frequent crimes in the blue collar world, the gray market world, the black market world.
Mm-hmm.
But them put together compared to nothing I've seen of like white collar crimes and the atrocities of warmongering, hungry people, government, white collar crimes, insider trading. I mean, these billions of dollars that they're messing with, no physical person's physically getting harmed.
Yeah.
But the ramifications down the road of doing that hurt way more people
Yeah.
than if little Billy just stole little Tommy's bat from his backyard. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you can almost figure that stuff out on your own one-on-one, talk to the parent. But like the big stuff, the evil stuff, the chemicals they're putting in the food, that's the stuff where you're like, wait a minute. And that's white collar. So we were like,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's
Yeah.
like, no. So I like to think that I would be more scared if my daughter went into a big corporate job than I would be if they're like, oh, I want to like be a welder. I'd be like, okay,
Cool.
just follow the rules. It is dangerous.
Yeah.
But if my daughter's like, oh, I want to be like, work at some big company, work at Goldman Sachs, work here, I'd be like, work at Google. I'd be like,
Hell no.
don't go to the parties. Don't go to the freak off parties because it's not just P. Diddy who does those.
Yep.
It's tech bros
Worst.
because they have the money for it.
Yep.
Don't go to this. Don't drink that. Don't do that. In fact, maybe just don't hang out with anyone in that industry. Go to work, come home, and like go into music, go into
Yeah.
the arts because those people don't have any money, so they're gonna call something that they're gonna call out because it's real,
Yeah.
with no money behind it.
Yeah.
They're just gonna call like, no, don't treat that person like that's not cool. In those big worlds, they can hide, they can deceive stuff, they can just move money or papers or an affidavit or pay you. If you had a complaint, they'd pay you $1 million, make you sign an NDA. I can't afford to make someone do any
Nope.
of that, so
Nope.
it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
most of the
fair.
crimes don't even come out.
I've never even thought about it like that.
What?
With this entire point that you just,
Oh.
the corporate thing, and I'm like, wow, that's
Oh,
very
it's
interesting.
so much more nefarious. It's way
Yeah.
more evil.
I have never even thought about that. Maybe I should
Yeah.
tell my parents this next time. Be like, hey, well, actually,
Listen, I went on this podcast with this random person I don't know, and actually, you guys are wrong.
you guys are all wrong. And then my mom's gonna be like, why are you listening to some stranger over your own parents? And then
It's like, well, Mom, sometimes you need a third person's perspective. Sometimes we live too close to each other. We don't see what's right underneath our nose. But yeah, the worst crimes and hateful and awful and destructive things I've seen have been at the hands of government, corporate, white collar, big industries, much more than the little stuff.
yeah,
They actually create the crime at the low level. They're the ones who are responsible for it. People don't want to rob and steal stuff if they have food that's got nutrition in it
Yeah.
that keeps them alive and having their brain chemistry not all funky and going through all these diseases because they're eating shit all day. Like,
microplastics.
yeah.
Yeah.
Lead is known to make
Yep.
your IQ drop one standard deviation. It's also known to make you a little erratic and
Yes.
hostile.
Yes.
And lead poisoning is everywhere. It's abundant. It's a huge problem.
Massive problem.
Massive problem. It could be why we actually see a lot of lower IQs in industry and in places where people don't have a lot of money. We think like, oh, they're just dumb.
No,
That's
it's
where they belong. It's like,
exposure
no, we're
to-
making them dumb.
Yes.
And now they can't get out of there. They're stuck. Yeah, when I go around like certain parts of Chicago, not too far from here, the smell in the air, the filth, the brake dust, the industry, the chemicals, you're just like, there's no way this is good to breathe in and live
No,
around
absolutely
here.
not.
You know, and that's why most people leave cities to have enough money. They don't actually want to live here. It's kind of gross. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to do about that. That's a whole nother thing. The EPA needs to get on that one.
Well, EPA is going in the garbage, I guess. So
Are they?
No, I thought that's what like one of that thing. Oh God, like the 2025 thing.
Oh,
yeah.
I haven't paid too much attention to that.
But
It's
it's
like
just
an
like
initiative to like clean house or something.
I have no idea
Yeah,
anymore.
me neither.
I have no idea. I feel like there's too much going on, but I think it's just like one of the things is like, oh, we're not going to let the EPA decide what these regulations are going to be passed in Congress. Instead, we're just going to have like some random people in Congress decide that. But I also am pulling shit out of my ass right now, so I could be completely wrong.
You could be just as right as them.
Yeah.
They seem to pull that out too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I don't.
On a positive note, what does your shirt say?
Oh, Maryland Death Fest.
Oh,
XIX. So what is that? 29? 20?
that would be 29. That'd be 19.
19. God.
19, yeah.
19.
If my Roman numeral knowledge is correct. Yeah, 19. The V's 5.
Ah, yes.
M is 1,000. C is 100.
I don't know.
X is 10. Right.
No idea.
Mm-hmm. Wait, so if you work 9 to 5, it's Monday. How are you not at work right now?
Okay. So
I just realized that.
Yeah, I got back from. I went to New York this weekend.
Oh, nice. What were you doing there?
Just a little like pre-birthday trip.
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
What part of New York were you hanging out in?
I stayed in Manhattan. Points at a hotel situation, but just bebopping all around. Like,
Beat bopping.
yep, just going from here to here, whatever. It was
Went
fun.
with some friends?
Yeah, I went with my friend from high school. He's actually born a day before me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
We went, met up with my sister because she lives out there.
Oh, cool.
And then just like did a bunch of shopping, walking around,
Yeah.
eating. We went to like a really good fusion spot that was like Syrian and Korean food. Really, really good. Delicious.
That sounds amazing. I like a good fusion.
Yes, a good fusion.
Yes.
I also hate fusion. I'm an anti-fusion person. But
You're
if
more of a
it's
fission person.
not nuclear fission.
Sorry, guys. That was a engineering joke that got a laugh. I hope everyone at home is laughing. Got one from you. And then you leaned into it. Not nuclear, not nuclear.
I know. I was like, ugh. No. It's fine. It's fine. But I do hate fusion if it's done improperly or like if it's like some like, I don't know, they're like, they didn't do their research and they're like, oh, yeah, we'll use soy sauce and now it's Asian fusion. And I'm like, great. We need more of this. Of course.
Asian fusion is a big one.
Yeah, I hate most Asian fusion.
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean, I love all Asian food, but I'm like, if you're gonna like say it's like good Asian fusion, like it better be good. Like I feel like I have such high standards for it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way with Mexican food.
Okay.
I'm half Mexican and grew up eating it from the source, all homemade, like real stuff, you know? And then growing up now, it's become so cool. The fusion things, and I go to these Mexican restaurants, I'm like,
What is this?
this like $8 taco. It's on flour, tortilla, first of all.
And it's like some crazy like, oh, we have a pomegranate
Yeah.
slaw with this.
Yeah, and then it's like I don't see yellow, red, and green anywhere, like my Mexican colors. And it's too clean and it's too corporate. It's like all like brick and tall ceilings. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and everyone is definitely not Latino at all. And I'm like, what? It's so weird. Why is it so much money? Like, I get if you want to start your own restaurant, but like,
You could have done literally anything else.
make it like $2 a taco, not $8.
Yeah.
Now you're really upsetting me. Now I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I get annoyed with those places, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't go to many fusion places.
Me neither.
What is your favorite type of food?
Chinese food.
Chinese food?
Yeah.
As you grew up having?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just had some yesterday from Happiness. Love Happiness down the street. But everything around here, because I'm right by Chinatown, so like every restaurant's
So good.
It's so good.
I know. One time so there's that like Stephanie Izzard restaurant, Duck Duck Goat in like West Loop that is like Americanized Chinese food, but it's like not good.
Tell us how you feel.
I don't like it. I mean, it's like a name like, I don't know, like some white lady who's like, oh yes, but I trained with blah, 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 and we're eating, it's like Americanized Chinese food, but it's like, it's like marketed towards white people and not Chinese people. And also it's like, oh, but it's like cleaner, like the whole like weird stigma against like Chinese, greasy, oily Chinese food in the US. And it's like, oh.
Well, what's the stigma? That's the best part.
I know. And then they're just like, oh.
Call it the business. What do you mean?
I don't know. People just like don't like how like a lot of like they look at like Chinese food and say like, oh, it's like really greasy, it's really oily, this isn't clean, this isn't healthy, and like this isn't like the good stuff, or like I don't know, people look down upon it sometimes, and like a lot of people also are like, oh my god, MSG, that's bad. Like anything in excess is bad.
Yeah.
Like look at all the sugar we're eating.
Yeah.
But no one's going like, ooh, sugar.
Yeah.
It's always MSG, and it's always like, ooh, you Chinese people using MSG in your food, blah 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 blah. There's nothing wrong with it if you use it in moderation, like everything else.
Like anything else.
But it's just like, this restaurant is just, marketed towards, not Chinese people. And then it's so expensive. And you're just like, dude, why don't we just go like a mile that way?
Anywhere.
Go to Chinatown.
Yeah.
You can get like quadruple the food for the price that you're paying over there. And I'm just like.
That's one of my favorite things about certain foods. I don't know what it is, but I've noticed it the most with Chinese food, around here at least. It's all I can vouch for. The quantity and the quality and the price are crossing over at such a point where it's like, how could you go or eat anywhere else?
Yeah.
The quantity that they give you, the amount of food at Happiness or any restaurant I've been to around here, it's like $10 gives you like 3 massive meals.
I know.
And it's
like
such a high quality too. It's so
family
good.
of 4. I'm like, I'm ordering this and I'm going to eat this for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know why you'd want to ruin that.
No.
And I don't like any restaurant. Could be Vietnamese, Indian, Mexican, Chinese, Puerto Rican. If it feels like I'm not there with those people.
Yeah.
I can't. If I want to go in and see the kid playing with the coloring book because his parents own the restaurant.
Yeah.
And the cousins are there shouting in a different language and I don't know what's going on. And
everyone's angry.
Everyone's angry and the food is $8.95 for whatever it is.
And it comes up piping hot.
Piping hot, massive. You get this free rice, you get this. The colors from their country are on the walls or part of the table. The ceramic floors got grit between, the grout from too many customers and not enough money for them to pay to clean it. Like, that's what I want to see because it's a family. It's clearly the authentic food from whatever region they're from that country. Or it's as close to it as it can get based on the ingredients we have here for them to use.
Yep.
And you're helping out a local family or a local restaurant. They're putting everything into it because each one of their sales matters.
Yep.
Each one of their Yelp reviews can tank them.
Yep.
Everything matters. So they're like, they really care. If they accidentally get a crumb or a hair in there, they're having a mental breakdown. They're freaking because that could ruin them versus some big company, some I don't know, like a Lumonati's or like a Buco de Beppo, like some big company that they wouldn't care if that happened.
Corporate restaurant corporate groups. Yeah.
Same with the pizza places, like
Yep.
a Lumonati's. Like, I don't mind it, but I'd rather go with my local like Phil's Pizza.
Yeah.
And give them their money than a company that's everywhere that is using the idea of Chicago pizza deep dish to market and make money.
Sure.
So, I don't know. I get annoyed at the fancy restaurants. I don't really care for fancy restaurants. Probably don't have enough money to go to them, but I have been to a lot of them, usually not through me, and they're a fun experience, but I just feel like you just miss so much of the whole point of eating the food, the authenticity of it.
Sure.
The price gouging of it. It's like, why would I pay, $150 for this wine or,
Yep.
$13 for a draft beer? It's like, it's a draft beer for God's sake. Like, it's not complicated.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Chinese food, I'm like, I don't understand how this can turn into a like $100 a person type of thing. Like, what is going on here?
What's going on? Not sure.
Yeah, Mexican food too. Whenever someone's like, it's a fancy Mexican place, I'm like, you mean low quality meat on a tortilla is going to be expensive? Like, come on. Like, what are we doing here? It shouldn't be expensive. That's not the whole point of this cuisine. Is like rice, chips, beans, some kind of meat that's usually really cheap. You can ground up and put on a tortilla. Like, this is not supposed to be the Taj Mahal,
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else you want to promote or talk about? Your bands? Any music coming out?
Music, yes. Okay, so Gnarly Gap, my first band. We just finished recording, and we just are getting it mixed and mastered. And so hopefully we'll be dropping our newest EP early 2025.
Oh, nice. Where
Yeah.
did you record at?
Actually in our guitarist's basement. Yeah.
I know that feeling too well.
Yeah. So
That's cool, though.
yeah, we've had like a bunch of songs like ready to go and stuff, and so we really needed to like sit down and record them. So how many songs we have? I think it's like 4. We recorded a bunch, but I think we're sending 4 over to be mixed and mastered by someone else, and then we're gonna do the other songs maybe just like in house, like by us.
Yeah.
See what that is, but I'm really excited for that stuff to happen because also my partner, he was our session drummer for those songs, and so it was like really cool to be able to play together.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Is it first time you've recorded music?
No. We've recorded stuff for Gnarly Gap a few times at this point. So I remember the first time we recorded was also at like a friend's basement situation, and it was like 8 a.m. on a Saturday, and I was like really nervous, and I'm just like, guys, you're gonna hear how poorly I play. I've been only playing for like a year and a half now. Like, I'm nervous. And so, like, I remember, like, having, like, one of those Kirkland seltzers at, like, 9 a.m. because I'm like, God, what am I going to do? And I was just like, I don't know. Like, how I would record those songs now would be differently, for sure. Like, some of the things I would play would be different now. But, but it's cool because, like, you can see, like, the progression and, like, the progress that I've made throughout the years playing. Yeah. Like, I did, when I first started playing bass, I was recording these crappy covers on YouTube. And I had like my first one like unlisted, and I was just like, I sent it to my friend. I'm like, oh, this is like a song that I learned. And then one day I just like decided to make it unlisted, and then I started also just like posting a bunch of bad bass covers on my YouTube page. And then at that point in time, I think in like 2020 and 2021, like there's a massive like resurgence of like Soviet era post-punk music, and so like I really got into this like Polish band from like the 1990s. They had like this one album, phenomenal.
Do you remember the name of them?
Yes, I can't pronounce it. It's like, it sounds like Shakira, but it's Siekira. It means axe in Polish.
Okay.
So, like, they have this one album, and I just, like, really liked their bass lines. Very simple, but very, like, I thought it was very impactful. I'm like, I like this. So I started, like, recording a bunch of, like, covers just from that one album. And then one day I wake up with a bunch of views on this video, and now I have 700 Eastern European subscribers on my YouTube. It's so bizarre.
Isn't that funny? The internet.
It's so bizarre because I ended up on like the Polish version of like Reddit or something, and someone had posted me, and then I like woke up one day and I had 30,000 views on this video. I'm like,
holy crap!
Yeah,
wow,
bizarre.
That is bizarre.
Extremely bizarre.
30,000, and that's crazy because some people they wake up and they have 300,000 views on a video, or 3 million, or 30 million. Imagine that kind of like viral view.
Yeah, and
you're
I'm
like,
just
well,
like,
I don't know, I just woke up and I had 30 million views the next day.
That's crazy.
It happens to people.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen to people. I know people that have had the viral video experience, and sometimes they turn into something. Sometimes they become a content creator just because they had one do it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes nothing ever hits again, and they kind of feel strange for a while, you know?
I mean, I just like continue to post like YouTube or bass covers now.
So you've been doing it since then?
Yeah, and like hasn't been very consistent since like last year. I think I only posted one video last year, but I did a few this year.
Have any of them gotten as many views as that?
No.
The Polish 30,000 overnight view?
Yeah, no, that was crazy. That was
that
bonkers.
is funny.
So like I do record with that. Just like a very simple at home recording situation with my audio interface, and then I sync my video with it and then call it a day.
Yeah.
With Wratheon, my death metal band, we're recording like a new 4-song EP right now as well.
Okay, so 2 EPs will be coming out in 2025.
Yes.
That's fun though.
Yeah, and I'm like nervous like with this death metal one because it does play very fast, and I'm just like, it's hard for me to play fast still, but like I joined this band also like in July or June of 2023 on a whim for Craigslist as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just like, I think I was like, I'm going to give myself a few years to be able to play death metal because I'm like, I want to play death metal. I can't play that fast yet.
Yeah.
But then I saw like this Craigslist ad. I'm like, oh, these influences are really what I like. And so I was like, hey, send me a demo. What are you playing? I listened to it. I'm like, oh, this is great. I want to try. And then I like worked, like I played like the music for like a little over a month and like try to get my hands up to speed. And I was like, wow, I should have done this a long time ago. I really should have tried to play fast a long time ago. So.
Well, what do you think about that? Why you didn't?
Because I thought I couldn't do it. Okay. It was just like, I
can't do that. So you just didn't.
I certainly can't do that. Like,
right.
It wasn't like one of those like bass song covers that I started when I was like, oh, I'll just, this song is too hard for me, but I'm just going to do it anyways because I can just fake it till I make it.
Mm-hmm.
Like this one was like, I don't think I can actually do this.
Yeah.
So then I like started playing with that. And then so now I'm like, okay, cool. I can play fast. So like, if I want to join another metal band, I can.
Yeah.
Like I do have the ability to do that at this point. So
or start your own.
Yeah, start my own.
You should. Now that you have all this experience, you should start your own band.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'm like that type of person. I don't think I'm like a type A personality to like be like, okay,
that's what
guys.
we're gonna do.
Yeah. I like to be like a supporting act. I like to be the supporting member, not like let's get.
Right.
I'm not that type of person.
Why you aren't the salesperson.
This is why I'm not sales. This is why I'm not a type A person.
Why you decided to play bass. Guess who has the least say and the least viewership from the audience, the least amount of what you could physically hear from a phone, which is where everyone hears music now. Mm-hmm. It's definitely not bass.
It's certainly not bass.
Bass is gone. Bass is almost just like, oh, there's a person in the background.
But like
doing something.
You can hear it when it's not there, but you won't notice it when it's there.
Absolutely. That's I always say that. It's almost how I mix bass sometimes, where a band might be like, I don't really hear the bass, and I'll mute the bass, and the song feels like it went into a vacuum. Like all the energy was sucked away from it. And I was like, oh, it's there. You just don't notice it. And that's sometimes where you want it to be, like this foundation.
Tell that to Metallica.
Why?
On their album, what, And Justice for All, you can't hear them. You can't hear the bass
at all. There's some mixes where I'm like, what is going on with this bass? It happens a lot with like pop punk, like a Sum 41 and a Blink-182, where you're like, there is no bass. Like, you could feel however you want about a band like that, but I'm using them as an example. Blink-182.
Yeah.
If you listen to their biggest selling record of all time, I think Enema of the State, the one from 1999, was like, What's My Age Again and stuff, all the small things. Very popular. Listen to that album, no bass. There's almost nothing under like 100 hertz. There's like no kick drum. There's like no low end. It is so minuscule. If you put it in your DAW, in a Logic or a Pro Tools, and put an EQ on it to look at a frequency analyzer, a frequency spectrum of it, I guarantee you'll see like nothing under 100 hertz. It's very lacking. And the thing is, at that time, that was not normal. Plenty of people had a lot of low end in 1999 in their music.
Sure, absolutely.
It was just a decision, a production decision. I don't know why. It's a very bright and sheen sounding album, like very clear and too high end, almost like pop vocals. But the whole mix was that.
Oh, wow.
And there's music like that you hear, and you're like, what the heck is this? There's like no bass. But then you can listen to like a Primus, and you're like, it's all bass, and there's like no guitar. And the guitar is very thin and kind of in the background.
Yeah.
But the bass also doesn't have much traditional bass tone in Primus. It's very much more treble, much more presence.
Yeah.
Kind of like two guitars going at it, but one is just a lower pitch guitar and one's a higher pitch one. Kind of mindset.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you like them at all, Primus?
I haven't really listened to them at all.
No.
But I should. I know I should.
I figured as a bass player.
I should.
And they dance in metal.
I have like a few songs here and there, but never like. There's a lot of music that I should have listened to, but I have never gotten around to it. Yeah.
All right, let's give each other homework assignments. What band should I listen to in the metal world that you think I would enjoy? I don't listen to a ton of metal, so I probably haven't listened to them if you name them. So I'll listen to them.
Oh God, this is so hard.
Yeah, a couple. I listen to tons of music. So you just give me a couple. I'll write it down and I'll listen to it.
Oh gosh, I think like my favorite band for a while was Immortal. It's like
Immortal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of my favorite bands, like it's definitely a little bit more technical. They have like this guy plays like a 6-string fretless, Beyond Creation. That one was
6-string fretless bass.
sounds really cool. I think that one's more technical death metal. Both of them are still melodic death metal, but like it's very melodic. But like Immortal's like definitely like more black death metal. That one's like technical death metal, and then I don't know, like lately I've been listening to a lot more technical death metal. I would say like Obscura has been like
I've
a
heard
big
of Obscura.
one.
I've listened to them.
And then I also listen to like a folk metal, which is fun.
Folk metal?
Yeah, folk metal.
I don't think I've heard that genre term yet.
Yeah,
Folk
so
metal.
like there's like this band from Switzerland called like Elvady or something. They're phenomenal. And, you know, there's a lady who plays the hurdy-gurdy, and there's a
called
violin.
Elvady?
Yeah, it's Leluveitie. It looks like Eluvati, I think, but I think you pronounce it Elvady. I don't know. They sing.
What's up with metal bands and their names? I swear to God.
I don't know.
They have to have these obscure words and names and things, and then the font always has to be like what does that say?
Maryland Death Fest.
Every font for death metal or or dark music like that has to have a font where someone reading it has to go, what does that say?
Are those tree branches? I don't know. Yeah.
No wonder why your mom and dad are scared. All they've ever seen of it is just
because I do like come home with like some like shirts, and you know there's like this is Bathory, and it's like a lamb's head.
I know them too.
Yeah,
I know them too. What's another one? Not Lydia. Opeth.
Yeah, that's big. Prague.
Yes.
Proggy
Opeth.
death metal. Yeah, great.
You got it right away. As soon as I said you Opeth. Opeth. Okay, that's the band.
Yeah, they just released a new album this year where they reintroduced harsh vocals back, because the vocalist for a while was like, nah, fuck the death metals or the harsh vocals, and was singing clean for the past few albums, I'm pretty sure.
He wanted to have a voice when he was older. That's why. Those people who scream and do the pig squeals and stuff, like their voice is shot.
This isn't like pig squealy, but it is like,
you know what I mean, though? Like that, just like the growling and the screaming. You do that for 30, 40 years.
But when I see them live, they're still doing the death vocals, death metal vocals. Like they still do it. They like those, you know, they still play the fan favorites.
Yeah.
So like.
Who was that metal band? Vultures of Death? They were the ones that were in Paris many years ago, and there was like a terrorist attack, and they held them hostage. And there's a metal band in Paris. They were kind of popular, but they were kind of like not popular for a good reason. I think they kind of said and did weird stuff, and that's why they made such headlines, because they're kind of like an intense metal band. And then they were held hostage by like ISIS or something. It's a crazy thing. What?
I don't know.
Masters Death
Spell Omega? No. Okay, there's always weird stuff going on in metal, because there's always like neo-Nazis and shit in there. And then you have like all these.
How do you parse the neo-Nazis from the real metalheads?
That's a whole thing. There's
Eagles of Death.
I have no idea.
In 2015. Okay. I was close. I said Eagles of Death Metal or something. Eagles of Death was a metal band that was held hostage. I didn't know if you knew. Anyway,
No.
It doesn't matter. But yes, there is a negative connotation associated with metal, punk rock,
yes,
hip hop. I mean, a few different genres.
Yeah, a lot.
Unless you're in unless you're playing really, really like gospel music.
Yeah.
Or like folk music, people will be like, wait, what are you doing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Especially, I say those three are probably the most extreme negative connotations. Would be
Yes.
hip hop, metal, and punk rock. Punk.
Yeah, my parents are certainly not a fan of this death metal, but like I'll go home, like I said, like with all these like words, and my mom's like, "Why does it say death or like kill or suffer on your shirt?" I'm like, I'm like, that's
What do you say to them?
I'm just like, oh, whatever.
Oh, Mom.
And I'm just like, I don't believe in this stuff. It's just a merch, Mom. It's just a shirt. And then she's just like, well, then you're like conveying all these ideas and this is what you believe. And I'm like, not really. But I understand like why you would say that.
They see what you live with them?
No, I don't live with them.
So they just see what you like go visit, they'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, how are they always seeing what you, or you just wear them all the time?
I mean.
Both.
Kind of, yeah. I feel like, but lately I've been going home and trying to wear not all black. And I usually try not to a lot, but I don't know. It's just easy.
It's just natural for you?
It's just easy, and like half my closet is black anyways, but my favorite color is purple. So
Okay.
that's why I have a purple bass.
Oh, right. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
Okay. So purple bass, love black clothes. It is a funny thing that if you're into that music, it's like black becomes
Your
ubiquitous.
personality.
It's your clothes. It's the shoe. You got to have some type of black boots. Black boots are mandatory. There could be docs that might get made fun of. You have to go a little bit more extreme. Some military-looking boots.
Nope, I literally have black docs on.
There you go. See, docs, that's become the standard. I think 20 years ago, I don't know if that would have flown. Black docs for metal bands. But anything else you want to promote? You promoted your 3 bands.
Okay, yeah. So
EPs.
we got Gnarly Gap, Wratheon,
Hoverboard.
Hoverboard. Where I think I don't even know of any shows at this moment, but I think we're gonna try to be releasing some singles with Hoverboard probably in the next year at some point.
So a bunch of music coming out in 2025.
Yeah, a bunch of music coming out in 2025. I feel like, I do want to play more shows next year. I feel like I didn't really play a bunch of shows this year. Or maybe I just played a bunch of shows in the beginning of the year. And then it's kind of, bands always have like, stages and like we're in a writing mode or like maybe we're not trying to play shows. So like I think just like where we're at, this is how like where we ended up with the shows that I did play this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any upcoming shows in January you wanted to promote?
I might be playing a show with Hoverboard on the 2nd of January at Phyllis's Musical Inn.
Where is that? Is that a DIY spot?
It's Damon and Division, I believe.
What kind of venue is that? Is it a music venue? Phyllis's
It's a bar,
Musical Inn?
I think. Also, don't quote me. I have no idea.
Could be a dive bar type of
Yeah,
thing.
it probably is a dive bar.
That either sounds dive bar-y or DIY. It doesn't sound like...
No, it's definitely a bar situation.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Keep your eyes peeled for all this new music. Hopefully that will be dropping.
It sounds like a bunch of great music.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And no, we don't have to promote your chemical engineering job.
No, please do not.
No.
Don't go to chemical engineering, people. Don't do it. You'll be forced to make important decisions at a very young age.
Wow. You heard it here first. Don't get an important job that requires important knowledge because important people can get mad at you.
Well, I don't know. I wish someone just told me that, or I wish I knew that sooner.
Really?
I guess. Yeah.
Is that what you tell younger folks that are trying to go into it?
I just tell them like, hey, this is like, are you comfortable with making like engineering decisions? Are you confident in your skills? Like, when you get to, your career, you're probably going to have to make these important decisions and you will have support a lot of the time, but a lot of the time, you will be having to make decisions on your own. And that can be very daunting and scary. And so I did not realize that when I was going to school. I was like, someone will just always tell me what to do.
Right.
No.
And this is a kind of a heavier question to end on, I guess. But what about did you notice any differences, man, woman, in engineering?
I think when I was traveling abroad, absolutely.
Okay. Abroad, which countries?
Like I was in China, Malaysia, Japan.
Okay.
Ecuador, and like Croatia.
Wow, you went everywhere.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
But like, I think internationally and sometimes even like internally, like maybe someone would say something, I would say something, and it would kind of be overheard. But I think like where I work now, like half of my team is women.
Okay.
Like my boss is a woman. Like she's great. She's an immigrant. Like she understands a lot of the things that I have to go through. So like our team is very woman, but also again, you don't see at the higher level, at the corporate, like the executive level, we're not seeing that diversity. So
yeah,
I can't say what happens up there, but I feel like on my team and on my level, like I don't get questioned because I'm a woman, which is great. And I know that's not universal at all. So
that's not what I've heard.
No.
But that is great. It's almost 2025, which matters. That I know that it's not going to be the same, and it's not the same for different people, different skin tones, religions, gender, sex. It doesn't matter. It's not the same, but it's also not what it once was. Yes. So both things are true at the same time. It's good to remember that. Like, yeah, of course, it's not exactly where it should be, but it's not 1975.
Yeah.
You know, you would be the only woman there if it was 1975. And we would not have respect.
No, and I would not have a bank account without a husband.
Right,
Or
exactly.
anything without a husband. Yep.
Exactly. That's true. Well, I'm glad that it's good to hear that it's not
going somewhere. Good.
Yes. That's good. Good.
Yep.
Well, thank you,
of course.
Lillian, for coming here.
Thank you.
It's been 2 hours and 10 minutes. Yeah.
Wow.
Right?
Flew by.
Yeah. So thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
And you have a really unique experience, unique story.
I do.
I'm glad someone like you is behind the scenes of important things like that. Because it's better, at least you're talking about your hair. Like some people would be like, oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. Like, you'd play it off. They wouldn't want to be honest. So
yeah,
and it's great you decided to play different styles of music. You went into following your passion.
Yes,
you know? It's
absolutely.
really cool. So good for you. And
never too late.
Yes.
Never too late.
It's also a great example, great inspiration for people who are like, oh, I don't know. I have this like Shakira gig. I don't know if I want to go do that.
Yeah.
You can.
You can.
At any age, doesn't matter.
You can do whatever you
You
want.
can do whatever you want. Yes. All right. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Check out Lillian's music. And support your local artist and support your fellow American. And be careful what you eat. We'll end on that.
Yep.
Look at the ingredients, for God's sake. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.